Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today with episode 228 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast.
And it's me, Karak with ACG.
Now, we got a story to tell. We also have a different layout this time around. Karak, it's our old one where we had the 4 boxes, except it's a leftover one. So one of the middle parts says, "Take your joy." And it's when we were talking about, it was that far back. We were talking about We Happy Few. And also we have Shadow of War. It says Fresh Start. Now, I don't have the file on my computer to edit this right now because I'm using my laptop right now. Some may be wondering why that's the case. So that leads us to our story time. About an hour before the show when we usually record, I'm sitting down. I'm getting ready to actually edit a Patron video. And my power goes out. And I'm like, oh, my God, of course. So I'm thinking, it's midday power outage. There's no weather. There's no wind. I'm like, something just happened. I'll wait it out. So it's 20 minutes, and I'm like, we're still at no power. So I run to my studio space. The power's on there. I had my mic with me, my webcam with me. And then I get a call from my mom saying, hey, guess what? Power's back. So I'm like, I'll stay here in the office. I'll do the podcast here. Then I realize I don't have my headphones with me. So I'm like, shit, even if I wanted to, gotta run home now. So I take everything with me. I run home. There's traffic because there's people working on the power lines. So essentially, I shred off a half hour of my life that I'll never get back. So with all of that out of the way, you guys now know why the overlay is the way it is. We're going to do something a little bit different. We pride ourselves on being an accurate podcast, getting our information correct. And last week when we talked about Pokemon, it seems, Karak, we were a tad misinformed. So we're going to just go through some revisions from the commenters. We did make people aware we were not Pokemon expert, but still, I don't find that to be an excuse. No one was really cranking on us, but more so correcting us. So we're going to read a comment from Wrenchin Gear. It says, the 400 Pokemon in the leaked Galarian decks. By the way, this now that the game's fully out, maybe this information has changed, but we still want to read these corrections. Includes the new ones. I think I've counted 85 new Mons. The actual number of old Pokemon is somewhere around 315, which means around about 500 of the 800 Pokemon aren't even included in the game, which is way more than even the most pessimistic of Dexters expected. This was me, by the way. Karak did not say this part. The trailer that was uploaded days before we had recorded, called A New Era of Pokemon Begins, didn't feature a single Pokemon that was excluded from the game. Maybe it was in poor taste, but it wasn't misleading. Correct. I do apologize. I was wrong on that. And this one wasn't more so correcting us, but additional information. It says, concerning the quality of the models, many of the game's 3DS models can be found in the Gmod workshop. Unpol's add-ons have a particular high quality. They have a great amount of detail and have been reused for Let's Go. Storage space isn't really a problem. Just take a look at how big the previous games were and keep in mind that Sword and Shield is on the Switch and on an even bigger cartridge. What people find particularly strange is that Let's Go, despite being a Gen 1 remake, contained data for Pokemon from the other gens as well, though it lacked their model and texture files. So, just wanted to make sure we had the corrections out there. We do pay attention to the show. We've actually never had to do this before. Not that we've never gotten things wrong before, but not to, I'd say, that significance. And we value the people who give us their time every Sunday or Friday or Saturday or whenever you choose to listen to us. So thank you to the commenters for giving their feedback and making sure we are straight. So with that correction out of the way, Karak, what are you doing on the Patreon? What are you doing on the channel? Any cool plans?
No, but I guess we do have some overlap. People keep asking what's going on and why I haven't done a bunch of reviews. Most of it's been a mixture of codes and some stuff going on outside where it's easier to stream than it is to sit for 6 hours. Well, not 6 hours, that'd be the editing. But sit for a certain amount of time and play the game and do the reviews. So I've been doing reviews in the podcasts. And for whatever reason, no matter how many times I inform people, no matter where I go, that's like the first thing. Like, oh, you've stopped reviewing? Every winter, I do slow down because that's the only... I love Christmas, so I do go slower, but it's just been that. I was going to do Star Wars. Right. I think you and I both had this issue, and EA's just impossible. They did say I was getting a code a couple days prior, but I went out and got a street date one, and then when I was playing it, I was like, you know what, I'm not going to review it. So, yeah, we've covered Death Stranding on the podcast. If people want to know, on the international, I've covered it to death. Like, you can get my idea of it. Same with Star Wars, same with Need for Speed Heat. What's the other one? Modern Warfare. Right. I do want to say, I was so tired last podcast, I actually don't even know what you were correcting us on. So weirdly enough,
oh.
Grim's asked me. So I was just going to say, because Grim asked me, or somebody asked me something about the last podcast, and I'm like, dude, I have no clue. I don't even remember saying.
Believe it or not, I had to go and re-listen to the whole section of the podcast where we were talking.
I do know that I saw a Reddit where somebody took the models and said, and like did a thing where they said they were reused.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I don't know if that's what they're talking about.
No, that was that correction came before that leak.
Oh, okay.
So I was just reading that information for what it was in reference to our show for those who may have listened last week and then
well, we do it Friday,
again.
Right? You know, that's the one thing. Friday, and then you have Saturday, and you post. Who do you give it to people Friday, right?
Friday
for patrons.
Yep.
And we go live Sunday.
Yep.
A lot of shit happens in those 2 days. I guess a lot of new data. It's sort of cool.
Yeah,
you get to look back and go,
I mean, we literally give it the max amount of time that we possibly can. We record in the evening on a Friday, but it was more so statements that we got wrong.
So what did we get wrong?
Exactly? The amount of Pokemon that were cut. We drastically underestimated that. I got the trailer completely wrong. You know, I said that they were like having Pokemon in there that weren't actually in the game. Turns out all that were there are actually in the game, which makes sense because then I think it would be considered false advertisement.
Okay. I do remember us talking about that. And then the model thing. Did somebody bring that up? Because I saw
when I listened, I heard us talk about the world, the graphics, and I think that didn't seem like a correction from what I listened to. It might be, but it seemed more like here's extra information on that. Like, hey, you're not
good to know.
As informed. Exactly. So, yeah, definitely helps to have the audience getting our back like that. On my end, Patron videos continue. For those who aren't patrons, don't worry. Those videos will go live during December when I go away for a bit of a holiday break, and you'll have videos every single day while I'm gone. Much like Karak, I enjoy the holidays too, and I do sort of pump the brakes around this time of year because it's really the only time you can comfortably take some time off and know probably nothing significant will happen and nothing's going to drop, especially because what's happening now is the fall. This fall was kind of slow, and this coming, we'll say, first 3 months of the year is like how the fall normally is. Like very big titles, exciting games, one after the other after the other. I mean, it doesn't really stop until Cyberpunk, I think, and I'm sure that part of the year will fill out anyway. So, it's been a slower time, but because of Bethesda and Obsidian, it's been good for the channel, news and discussion-wise, so it's been nice. But overall, Laylee and I launched our new podcast, BFGF AFK, which has had great reception. We've been really thrilled by that. A lot of people seem really interested. It's available to patrons. There's a $2 level podcast duo tier that I added in before I launched my Patreon trailer. So pretty much you get the podcast package for early access. But if you don't want that, then all you got to do is wait till Saturday, and you can listen on Spotify, iTunes, Pocket Casts, Google Podcasts, what have you. So with one of our longest intros to date complete, Karak, let's shift into what is going to be the main section of our podcast, I'd imagine. So Xbox had a pretty loud Thursday where they had the X019. They had a ton of reveals, news. We have an article up from GameSpot that is everything Xbox announced at this showcase. So they did start off with the Star Wars Fallen Order trailer. We're not going to talk about that. We're just going to talk about announcements, reveals, actual news. So we'll begin with Rare announcing a new game, the developer behind Sea of Thieves. Rare announced a brand new game called Everwild, which is the third title to come from the studio. It appears to be a journey-like adventure game where you explore a beautiful world and discover magical moments with help of the other players. Rare said Everwild is still early in development and will continue to be developed alongside new updates for Sea of Thieves. Were you underwhelmed by this new IP from Rare?
No. It looked a little like Viva Pinata with some of the stuff they were doing, and I'm a fan of that.
I thought of Battleborn. that Archer girl?
Looked like her. I overall, I usually am never underwhelmed. I'm usually like, does it check an interest box?
Yeah, I get that.
I don't worry too much about trailers. We've seen some shit trailers for awesome games and some awesome trailers for shit games. So I'm a little bit like interested, yes, no. And yeah, I was interested, but not like it didn't make me go, oh, fuck,
Gotcha. Yeah, for me, it was those types of trailers don't grab me. It's like I just want to see the game at that point. Same thing went for a lot of these trailers. A lot of them initially did just show concepts, not like raw gameplay of the game running. So I'm interested for sure, because Rare did show that I mean, as far as I've heard, kind of turned Sea of Thieves around. I think Game Pass was sort of the inception of that, and it helped propel a player base, and then they really built something into it. I've not paid close attention to that game at all. I do have a friend who continues to play it, though, so I imagine, something's going on there that's interesting, that he's not just still doing the same 5 things that you could do in the base game. But
no, my Discord plays it, and supposedly it is, like, not what you and I experienced. Like, at all.
Wow.
If we jumped into it, we'd be like... It's
might be fun to go back to.
It might be. I mean, they're talking about it all the time. There's new content all the time and new stuff you and I couldn't even do.
Like, I never even... Oh, wow. Okay. See, I never even thought of... With Game Pass, it's also useful for... I'll come back to this later. I never thought of it that way.
Absolutely.
Where it's always... I always think of it as an entry, but I never thought of it as...
saying we should come back to it later. So I got quiet. Go ahead.
No, I more so meant like, I can come back to this game later on and sign up, because I don't use my Xbox really at all, so I'm not a Game Pass subscriber. But it is enticing to be like, I kind of want to go back to this game, and therefore I will sign up for Game Pass so that I can access this title. I never viewed it in the rear view window. So
yeah,
another neat perk. And I imagine all of these games will be available through Xbox Game Pass. They really increase the value, and that's going to be an exciting conversation in its own right, especially with Stadia right around the corner, which we'll be talking about later in the show. Obsidian announced a brand new game. Obviously, we know them for developing The Outer Worlds, Fallout New Vegas. They're very popular single-player RPG developers, but they look to be doing something a little bit different, a bit of a passion project. It's developed by 13 people. It's called Grounded. It's a survival game. It's got a co-op element. It's got building, and pretty much you're shrunken down into a backyard as a kid, and you're walking around in this backyard that has like toys and all this different stuff around you. Like, you can see a huge baseball. It's really, really neat. It's really different. Once again, by 13 people, so some folks were underwhelmed, but Obsidian staff is around 200 people, so very small percentage working on this game. Now, I've talked about this quite a bit on my channel, sharing opinions, thoughts, sharing information on the game. So I know a lot of the audience is really caught up with how I feel about it. I'm personally intrigued by it. I'm not excited. I'd say I'm intrigued. It looks a lot more deep than I expected, but to get the conversation rolling, I'd like to hear from you. What did you think about this game? Because I know you like a smaller game, a hidden gem. And did this one kind of call out to you, especially because it's by Obsidian and they're doing something a little different?
Yeah, and I would say the same thing you said. People need to realize that just like Rare's title, it's not all Rare's working on. And it's not all Obsidian's working on. But for me, I'm a Toy Commander fan, which was a Dreamcast game. I'm Toy Story fan. Anything with toys, mixtures, small. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, that kind of stuff. And so to me, that actually was not only checked as like interest, but like that actually looks like something I would want to get into with friends to just sort of run around inside of a miniature world. That's one of the things is that's why Outer Worlds called me, because I like sci-fi.
Right.
That's why
you love
Fallout,
Firefly.
I love Firefly, and then Fallout intrigued me because I like post-apocalyptic. And so to me, it's another world that it sort of lets them do modern, but in a completely different way, which is all shrunken down. And I love the idea. I don't know how it'll turn out, but I'm really excited for it, actually.
Yeah, I like the idea, too, because I remember growing up, and even when I returned to my N64, one of my favorite games to play was the Army Men game. I love those games. Running around, like, one of the levels just being a bathtub, and it's like, what? This is so cool. And there's just something charming about that, because it looks like feature-wise, it's a lot of what we've seen in survival games. You have your thirst meter, your hunger meter, you mine resources, you defend bases, you build structures. But I was reading an article by PC Gamer, and I want to pick your brain on maybe some of the thoughts you have about the features they're considering adding, because not every insect you see is going to attack you. So they say there's like worker ants, but these worker ants, they're pretty much neutral. But if you attack them, you harass them, eventually the soldier ants are going to start coming in, and they're going to start attacking you. And they said that they're interested, it's not confirmed, it's not like they're going to do it, but they're interested in adding what they call a faction system, where you can sort of ally with a type of insect. And they said they definitely want to add tameable insects and insects that you can ride around in this backyard, so to speak, so you could tame a spider maybe or something like that and ride it around. And I thought, once again, conceptually, this was really cool. It's sort of, I don't know much about Ark, but I imagine in that, it's a lot of, I think that's the one where you interact with dinosaurs, correct?
It is.
Okay, yeah. And so I imagine there's an element of that in there that I may not be fully aware of, because this universe speaks to me more than Ark did. That's kind of why it's pulling me in. Do you share some of the sentiment on that with a faction system and tameable insects?
Yeah, an Ark runs at like 5 frames per second. So at the very best,
Still?
Sometimes, it's better, but it is still a resource hog. But to me, what excites me about that is the idea of, let's say, I don't know if this would be possible, but let's say you fed the worker ants a little bit of planks of wood for a while, and they know you like wood, so they brought you construction materials because the game showed some construction. Like, I'm not saying they'll do that. I don't want to get into our Spider-Man discussion where we suddenly magically change the game, but that kind of stuff, dude, there's only one thing you really need in most of these games to really make me feel like it's brand new. One mechanic, one thing that, like,
the universe
me.
Or something along those lines.
Yeah, and then your expectations meet whatever innovation, and they plug that in. For example, State of Decay is a zombie game with social elements, which has never been done. So suddenly you have all the normal zombie stuff with social, and to me that was highly interesting. And so if they do something like that in this, that's actually very cool. I love the idea of riding ants too.
Yeah.
So dumb.
Yeah.
But the idea of like 4 of us riding ants and running around, and that is actually cool to me.
Yeah, and they also said that it's going to be driven by an adventure. So they said it's not like this endless sandbox. The game actually eventually ends, which I don't know if that's very unique to the genre. But when I read it, I was very caught off guard. I thought that was great news.
Yeah, like, I don't think most games, maybe they have a single player element in that open world at the end, maybe. But I don't know a lot that do that.
Yeah, they did say it's open world.
Huh, cool. Yeah, that all that stuff is highly, and also I'm sure you covered this, but I love the fact that they're just like, and I get it's a service game, so some people aren't going to like this, but for that small of a team, I like the fact that they're probably going to deliver something, and then they'll watch what people do and say people want to ride the ants, or something, and add that.
I think part of the reason I'm willing to buy in is because it's 13 people, right? It's like, when they say, we wanted to put it on game preview because we wanted to see what people did, what they think, and we can evolve this over time. That sounds a lot more plausible when you have 13 instead of 75 on hand, because then it's an actual team that should be able to put together ideas and get something going. But if this is a small passion project off to the side, and you really, the community does push that type of project forward when you have that small of a staff working on the game. So that's for me why I was very, very intrigued by this title. Next reveal was a really cool one. It was West of Dead. This comes from Raw Fury. So shout out to our friend of the show, D-Mart. He's come on before from Raw Fury and talked a lot about his experience making indie games. So this is a Western-themed twin-stick shooter. It's a Ghost Rider-looking character. This trailer had the voice of Ron Perlman. There was a kind of comic book style to the trailer and the gameplay, and it's actually available for open beta on Xbox One right now. Looks really cool.
Dude, I don't know why I'm a sucker for Ron Perlman.
Oh, as am I. As am I.
He just, and they were showing stuff that if you watch the trailer, you may have missed. If you watch it, like, just sort of off the side, but if you look, they had some cool mechanics going on. They showed him hiding behind boxes and the bullets hitting the boxes, sliding, the kills up close. Did you see, like, I love the slow-mo, like, he gets up close to somebody and he, like, I can't tell if he's got a knife, but he does some, like, uppercut thing, kills a dude, and I'm like,
yeah.
And the darker cell shading, because we get all these games with the Borderlands saccharine color, and this one looks like, it almost looks like they chose primary dark colors. Like, there's something about the color scheme.
Red, brown.
Yeah. It looked awesome. Like, to me, that is the shit that I die for. Like, those are the type of games that if they turn out to even be somewhat fun are just really cool to experience.
Well, yeah, and it also feels like Western is not tapped into as much.
Absolutely.
And that's, I get why, because I think there's a small arsenal to work with in terms of gameplay tools. And unless you're like, I guess, Red Dead Redemption 2, where you're just bringing that whole experience to life across the board, it could sound pretty unenticing. But I think there's I think Call of War as Gunslinger, was it? There's like these arcadey, cell shaded Western games that are so unique and they rarely come by. But when they do, it's like, oh man, why aren't more people doing this? But I guess that's what makes them special. I'm personally excited for it. A lot of what this show succeeded in, I think, and I know some people weren't thrilled with the show, but what I saw,
show.
yeah, I know. But I saw a lot of reasons why I will want to turn on my Xbox next year, which is something I haven't really felt in a very long time. I turned it on for State of Decay 2, and that was it. That's Crackdown 3.
Do you also think this one might be more enticing, even though it's Western, which I agree in every way? Like you're saying, it feels limited. But the undead part, because they're mixing the magic with the
Ghost Rider touch kind of is nice.
Yeah, and it opens it up so you never know. And there's a couple D&D games. There's Deadlands, which is a Western D&D game. It's considered one of the biggest RPGs. But there's also a point-and-click XCOM game that's Western and magic. And I reviewed it, and I can't remember the name.
I know what you're talking about too. I talked about it in a video before Red Dead came out about like Western games people should try, and it was so cool looking.
Oh, dude, it is a phenomenal game. So, yeah. But it also mixes that undead / necromancy with Western, and I think it works, dude. I think that's actually one place, like you said, that I would like to see some devs try. And Undead Nightmare worked because they did that.
There's just something cool about the crossing of old and magical. Like I think of oh my god, what was the game? I think it was Singularity. It was kind of like, I think, World War II or Cold War era, but there was a mystical element. Was it Singularity?
No, that was Legendary.
No, Legendary was bad.
I know, but it was are you sure you weren't talking? Because that had like griffins and magic in World War II. Are you talking about that?
I'm definitely thinking of Singularity. Okay. Maybe I'm getting the concept for Singularity wrong.
I didn't play it.
Oh, Singularity is really good, man. It was like the last game Raven made, and it was really good. You'd love it. Yeah, it reminds me a lot of Resistance or something along those lines.
But don't these remind you too of Wolfenstein in a way? Like mixing that like magic and
Wolfenstein has like touch, yeah.
A now world, especially the older ones. That one for the 360 was very mystical.
Oh yes.
Remember?
Oh my god! Like, before they did the reboot with Bethesda.
Yeah.
I know
so it was like guns and magic and or Nazi magic.
Pretty sure you had an ability that literally lifted people up out of cover.
Yeah,
almost.
It was nuts. It was, and I love it, man. I think that's like a place where a lot of devs could go.
Absolutely. So we'll take a pause from some of the news to answer a question. We'll start off with Grimblade because I feel what we were just talking about the crowd reception might be a good segue here. He says the general reaction to X019 and game conferences in general, emphasis on that, has been pretty negative from some people claiming there was nothing big, but positive from ones who felt there was something for everyone. Karak already discussed this on the international podcast, but I wanted to frame the conversation a bit here. Is the fan focus on the next big thing, AAA titles, problematic? Karak mentioned how someone critical commented everything was for kids, but there was a game where there was a giant ooze of blood and Wasteland 3. There was representation for almost every genre of game. I feel that the disappointing factor is the scale of the game. Very interesting question.
Well, first of all, thank you to whoever wore the ACG shirt live on TV.
Really?
Whoever that was. Yeah.
That is awesome.
They were in the interview. They weren't doing the interview. They were in the audience, but you see in the interview.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome.
First of all, general and then some people don't really work in a sentence in that way because generally I don't know we'll never be able to query the general audience and find out what they thought. I will say I didn't notice any negativity whatsoever until I went to one particular forum. So I went to 3 forums and it was all positive, and I went to one specific place where it was negative. So I think it's where you go, right? Number one, and then what your Twitter fan base is and all that. I don't know about you, but I think overall I don't look for this anymore because I've I've been interested in E3 since they were done on magazines, and they've never not had negative and never not had positive. People saw Sony's and were like, nothing was there. I'm not saying I don't believe them, I don't. I think they're liars. But I'll just say I think the people who say that, I don't care.
Okay.
Like, if you like games, you like games. If you like your console, then that's something different. And so to me, I don't know what to say. It just is.
I think the conversation with Xbox changes a little bit just because Sony leads the charge so much in the gap between these two consoles that I think a lot of folks tuning in who are voicing displeasure, maybe people who are looking for that big announcement, I put that in quotes, to push them over the top and have them get an Xbox or want to get an Xbox next year. And so that's where I think a lot of this was underwhelming may be coming from. Not to say that folks who already have an Xbox were already underwhelmed, but that would just be my prediction, that I think the skew is different, right? And that's not to say Sony doesn't get their licks in. Like, when they do State of Play, man, I have not seen anyone walk out of that and been like, that was great. And it's cool that they have a platform for indies. But I think because of Nintendo Direct, that changes the conversation, because PlayStation's trying to do something similar to something that exists that does use its platform for big reveals. And so when Sony does something and it's only for small reveals, the conversation's very much like, what happened here? If you guys are going to do the same thing, why wouldn't you do it on the same scale? Especially if you have the means and the titles to do so. So I think it's generally perspective. I think a lot of people were pleased with X019. I can't see... I won't say I can't see how you wouldn't be. Everyone has opinions on games. But I feel like that there was something for everybody is always good, because it's healthy for gaming. It shows that there's expansive ideas. And if you care about the overall industry and you want it to continue to grow, then I don't like the word accessible, because that indicates like lowering to get the people through the entry barrier. But instead, I think of it as we're casting our net wide and seeing who you can kind of pull in. So personally, I sit on the side of the fence of there will be big announcements. This is at the end of the year. Xbox already confirmed they're at the Game Awards. So that's another thing that they could be at a place to announce something big at. There's still E3 next year, where I imagine we'll see something like Fable 4. That's a really big one that Microsoft's absolutely stuffing in their pocket until the last possible moment to launch alongside the console. And that'll be a big purchasing decision for a lot of people. So I think that's why Microsoft, I think for the situation they're in, they played it just right.
Also, I don't know. I feel that most of the people don't remember that Gears just released, so you can't show a new Gears. Halo Infinite's not ready, so you can't show that. Forza just released, so you can't show that. So anybody who was going into this expecting like a blockbuster of that scale, which I would consider God of War as well, those kind of scale games, were actually not really paying attention. Additionally, the major complaint about Microsoft, yes, has been what do you call it?
Big exclusives.
Exclusives. However, I do think they have big exclusives. This time wasn't great. If they'd shown Infinite, it would have been better for them. Because remembering Halo is one of the biggest industry juggernauts ever. Whether you like it or not, that would have been considered a big one. But I think also when you look at it, they're just offering something different. Nintendo is offering a portable, pretty powerful system with some really good games. Sony's offering exclusives. But remember, sorry guys, but anybody who tries to say like exclusives are happening every single week are fucking liars. It can be 8 months. It can be a year between huge exclusives. And
this year's been particularly quiet for Sony exclusives, right? And they kind of have just Medieval and...
Right, and what Microsoft has done is said, we want to offer value for the other 11 months. And so to me, I don't know. I mean, I get it, but if we just played Gears, so it's like, what would you expect? I think what people wanted and what I would have liked was for them to show a Fable 4 title, right, to indicate Fable 4, and it would have been great for an Infinite something. I think two of those, I don't think it would shut everybody up. Some people hate Microsoft, but I think it would have at least, and then maybe one new one, but I don't know what, we don't know if it's big until it's big, Matty, right? You know what I mean? Like,
it's usually after the fact. It's always big on a personal level if you're excited about it, and then you see if the internet shares that.
Different, but yeah, God of War is different, but I mean, if you look at exclusives, you don't really know they're huge until you're much closer. So I don't know. It's a weird conversation to have.
Certainly. Okay, let's keep moving forward. Bleeding Edge gets a release date. Ninja Theory developed Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, a excellent game. It was melee focused, and now they're doing a melee focused hero based multiplayer game. It's scheduled to release next year on March 24th, 2020. This one is so on my motherfucking radar. It's not even funny. I think this game looks. What? You don't like it?
No, continue. So it is on your list?
Yeah, I think it looks. I like the idea of it. Here's the thing. Number one, a lot of people who listen to this show already know this. I play a lot of Smite. Number two was a Xbox game that I love that got shut down called Gigantic, which was like a 5v5 hero multiplayer game.
Yeah.
Absolutely excellent. I actually have a video dedicated to it on my channel from, I think, 2017, if anyone wants to look it up. Love that game. Might have been 2016. Anyway, really like that game. And so when I saw this, I saw a little bit of both there. I really like what I saw. And I'm excited for the game personally. But I'm a sucker for hero stuff. I loved Overwatch. Overwatch was my game of the year in 2016. I love these team-based multiplayer games, and I feel like the hero theme sort of drives that team play. Like I was watching some of the support play and how you could really buff and heal your teammates, which sort of kept you in the fight longer. And I was watching someone from IGN play, and they were kind of just going head first with Cass was her name, and they just kept getting rocked. And I like that you can't just go in there and kind of pound your way like through a Call of Duty team deathmatch. I like that it requires some teamwork. So it's my taste. I kind of side towards the third person MOBA side of things, and Gigantic was kind of that. Not really. They define it more as 5v5 hero play, and Smite certainly is that. So this game's more up my alley. But why did you say no? That's why I'm wondering.
Okay, I should.
Do I not know something?
This. I just saw the trailer. I did not see what you saw, which sounds good. I will just say that that is the only game in the entire thing where I checked it off the interest. I thought the wheeled character looked fucking horrendous. When they were gameplay, when they were rolling and like just
there is like a jank. Don't get me wrong, there is.
Well, but you saw more. See, I only saw the trailer, and I'm just so all I can say is the trailer. I like the animation, and I love the fucking corpse fucking snake guy, where the snake is alive and the body that he's wrapped around is great character design. But the gameplay I saw in the trailer, that looked to me personally, only that trailer, only that 15 to 25 second gameplay looked abysmal, and it could have just been the way the person was playing. I'll go and watch the IGN stuff because I didn't even know they covered it.
IGN wasn't even that good at the game. That's the thing. That's why I was also kind of sold.
It, right? It showed it better.
It showed a full match. I liked how part of the map they showed had a train running through it, and it was constantly active. So you had this element on the map that team fights would happen on this major flag, but the train would cut right through, and if you got hit, you die, of course. But so it was neat in that way too. I love active maps. Another game I should mention that I like is Battleborn. I really like that one when it first launched. So
I like that a lot.
For folks who maybe disagreed, that this game's more up my alley because of the taste I have.
Well, it sounds like they showed just better gameplay, even if they didn't know what they were doing. Were they the wheeled character?
No, Cass. I am not familiar with wheeled.
There's a chick who's got a wheel for her lower body.
Okay.
And they showed it in the trailer only in the Xbox event, and it just did not look.
I'll have to check it out.
Then later they showed a big fatty. What I mean is her lower part was like chicken legs. That shit was creepy. I don't know which character that was. She looked weird. She actually creeped me out a little bit. But she moved better. She moved better than the wheeled character. Wheeled characters, they have a weird way of moving because they're not feet.
Yeah.
And so
diagonals more like.
Right. Yeah, that's exact. And it didn't look like it turned like you or I would with our feet, where we'd shuffle our feet. It was just like that spin in place, so it looked robotic. I guess.
I get that.
So I'll have to check it out. And active maps are the. Honestly, every game should just have active maps. I agree with you there.
Yeah. Okay, next one comes from the Life is Strange dev. Don't Nod announced a game called Tell Me Why. We're going to read the blurb from GameSpot here. The new narrative-focused title features a playable transgender main character, a rarity in video games, taking place in a small town in Alaska. Tell Me Why follows the true-to-life story of twins Tyler and Allison Ronan as they learn more about their difficult childhood. All chapters are scheduled to release in summer 2020, so it doesn't seem they're taking the episodic approach. This sort of taps into what I was talking about earlier, where they're casting their net wide, and I think Don't Nod is a great studio to tell a story like this. I think it's they do emotional stories well. They translate emotions well. Like in Life is Strange, they sort of deliver that feeling of a teenager and strife and worried about friendships, but also worried about the power she has. And so I feel like they could deliver really a great story here that could maybe open more people's eyes who are a little more closed-minded, could help people understand. I think this is an important game, and a lot of people are being really rough on it, which, naturally, it's the fucking internet. But I'm glad this game exists, and I'm definitely interested in it. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I didn't see anybody being rough, which I guess
comments.
I should just say
YouTube comments.
Oh, and you mean on the stream?
Yeah, stream, YouTube comments, the dislike ratio, just immaturity, like people that you wouldn't pay attention to anyway. Obviously, it remains to be seen if they tell a good story, a worthwhile story of representing. But still, at first look, it's good that they're trying to tell this story.
I thought it looked good, and when they said all chapters coming, I don't know what that means. It could mean in 2 months they'll do one every week, which I would love. I think a company needs to do that. I think episodic, that would be amazing, like a TV show where it's actually. Weekly. Yeah, dude, I would fuck if it was Thursday night where we could talk about it every Friday. So yeah,
it's good to see them kicking around. Life is Strange 2 doesn't seem to be doing that great. It doesn't have a lot of attention, and they announced another game, so they could be telltale it and just saying we're going into the ground here, or they're really trying to spark something, which I hope it's the latter.
Do we know if Microsoft funding that?
Ooh, I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I was wondering, is it exclusive first on why did Microsoft show it, I guess would be my question. Usually that means first on or exclusive. Hopefully Microsoft... Maybe Microsoft's... Oh, man. Yeah. Game Pass for episodic works too. Yeah, I don't know. It's exciting to me. It looked good. I like those kind of games. So, and Don't Nod, just because this last one I didn't love doesn't mean I won't give the next one a huge chance. I'm a big fan of those guys.
Next is a pretty big one as well. Halo Reach is coming to the Halo Master Chief Collection. Currently, the Master Chief Collection includes Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary, Halo 2 Anniversary, Halo 3, 3D ODST, and Halo 4. Starting December 3rd, Halo Reach will be part of that collection as well. It will be available for 4K on PC and Xbox One X. Love me some Halo Reach. You excited about this edition?
I am not as big of a Halo Reach fan, but I do like...
I should say the story. I like the story a lot.
It seems like they're fixing all of the issues with Master Chief, so that's cool to me. And it looked good graphically. The trailer was spot on, so that actually excited me a lot. It'll be fun
to pop back to that. Yeah, so after this, we do have a pretty big Game Pass announcement, which is Yakuza coming to Xbox One. Next year, 3 Yakuza games are coming to Xbox One via Game Pass. In early 2020, Yakuza 0, Kiwami, and Kiwami 2 will be available for Xbox One via Game Pass. An exact release date was not announced. Huge. Oh my gosh, huge.
That was right when the event started kicking off, was the next 3 or 4 announcements that we're going to talk about. It was just like boom, 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 boom. And Yakuza is pretty massive for Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing is that Xbox needs Japanese support, and apparently I saw Skill Up write this online. Apparently, Phil Spencer had said that they're trying to really double down on getting more Japanese support for Xbox, and I think they really came through with Yakuza as well as a couple of other announcements that we'll be going through. For some reason, this article is ending, and there isn't a page 2, so to speak. So I'm gonna have to just snag real quickly another article. But I do know after this we did have Kingdom Hearts announced for Xbox. The collection of Kingdom Hearts games is finally heading to Xbox. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I think it's cool. Obviously, they're trying to get Japanese support. I don't know if that'll pay off because American companies just have a hard time, really catching on in Japan. But I think those are probably the best games. I just don't know enough about Kingdom Hearts. I couldn't tell you, but it felt to me like the ones they announced were the side Kingdom Hearts games and not the primary games.
It was the collection. So it was 1.5, 2.5. I don't know if 3. I might be wrong on that.
Are those the official?
1.5 is Kingdom Hearts 1, Kingdom Hearts, what was it?
Oh,
the in-between game.
Okay, so it includes the primary.
It's the
title.
Package. Yeah, it's Kingdom Hearts 1, and then 2.5 is better. 2, Birth by Sleep, Dream Drop Distance.
I see.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ, that's a lot of games.
It is a lot of games. So some people may look, oh, it's just 1.5, but in that offer you get
package,
of a lot of games, which is great for Xbox. A lot of people have wanted Kingdom Hearts to come to Xbox, so I'm thrilled because I love Kingdom Hearts despite how flawed it is. I think it's good, and especially great value for Game Pass. That's a lot of gameplay, especially 2.5. 2.5, for those who are wondering, as someone who's played all the Kingdom Hearts games, is my favorite package. Drake Hollow, a game called Drake Hollow, is coming to Xbox One, which looks like a cartoonish 4-player co-op game. Do you know much about this one?
I don't know. I'm trying to even remember.
There was a lot of announcements.
There was. I'm trying to even remember what that looked like, and I don't remember. So I don't really think I know anything about that one. I'm sure I saw it.
Kind of a similar art style to like a Don't Nod game. Kind of like what we saw in Grounded. Anyway, got plenty of other stuff. Launched in 2004 on PC, Kart Rider is a massively popular multiplayer racing game that boasts more than 380 million players. Kart Rider Drift is the Xbox One and PC version for the West and will feature crossplay features and other features. I was not into this one at all, but I guess it's a really big deal.
I get somewhere. I was the same way.
380 million players is no joke.
It's no joke, and the thing is like they were saying that, or I was saying during the event too, that I feel that kart racers never, ever, ever, no matter how good of a kart racer it is, never trailer well. Kart racers just don't trailer well. So they were showing them. It's like, does the drift feel good? Does the track feel good? So they were trying to show it and do the trailer, and I was like, I don't care until we get some friends over and we play it.
Makes sense. Yeah, I agree. However, there's one game you'll be able to play in April when you get some friends over, Karak, and it's Minecraft Dungeons. It's coming April 2020.
Probably the one game I'm excited for. No one else is.
Dude, I feel the same way. I was like, I was really into it. Yeah, my friend Brian is like vehemently against it. He's like, what the fuck is this? Like, why does it exist? We're not playing it. I'm like, Brian, we're playing it.
Dude, it's Diablo, Minecraft. Like, it's everything. I personally, I think it'll get more people into Minecraft than any further videos by PewDiePie.
It just looks fun. Like Diablo, Minecraft, it just looks fun.
A ton of secrets, like he even said he wasn't on the trailer when all the cows came up. He's like it's a lot of it's procedural, so they don't know what enemies are gonna show up. Yeah, I love it.
One of the biggest announcements, this comes from Windows Central, was some information regarding xCloud. With Google Stadia around the corner, Microsoft had to make a splash with Project xCloud game streaming at X019. The company did exactly that at the event. It was announced that more than 50 new games from 25 partners are being added to the service. You can now play Devil May Cry 5, Madden NFL 20, and even Tekken 7 on the go. Since Project xCloud launched in October, Microsoft's focus has been on Android phones. However, that's going to change in 2020. The company said next year will bring Project xCloud to Windows 10 and are collaborating with a broad set of partners to make game streaming available on other devices as well. This may include iOS. Given the fact that there are a lot of players on the market now, Microsoft plans to support more Bluetooth devices like Sony's DualShock 4 and accessories from Razer. While Stadia is launching with 12 titles, Microsoft says that over 3,500 games on Xbox One today and 1,900 games currently in development are already working on Project xCloud. Project xCloud will expand to more countries in 2020, like India and Japan. The team will also add game streaming from the cloud to Xbox Game Pass. Lastly, existing games in your Xbox One library will show up on Project X Cloud next year.
Yeah, that was. I thought that was pretty cool. Also adding it to Game Pass just adds one more reason to Game Pass. It was pretty ridiculous.
It literally does. It's insane. I think that sort of stomped the rest of the life out of Google Stadia. Like, that's one of those things where Google's watching, and you think to yourself, do they see this and go, fuck? And it's like, absolutely. They had to have seen that and been like, ah, shit. You know, that's good competition. And I think, got to tip my cap to Xbox, man. I mean, because the next step has been the long rumored get the X Cloud onto the Nintendo Switch, which I think is inevitable. And if they're streaming Game Pass, so far the rumors have been true. So this seems to be the next big step for them, and that would give Microsoft another sense of portability outside of phones, which, whew.
And they especially with like the Xbox stuff, they're pretty smart on how they're giving it out. Mm-hmm. It's like it'll work on current devices. We'll talk about Stadia, right? We have that separate.
Yeah, we have that separate.
Yeah, because there's some serious problems that were just brought up about Stadia in the last week that we can talk about then. But I think with Xbox, they're doing it right. It's like our systems will run your game. Like you can just go and it works. And it seems to me we're going to roll it out here when it works and here when it works is a lot better than blah, which is what Stadia is doing. Yeah. Now, Stadia's got the money to stick around forever, but remember, Google has issues with shutting shit off and just deciding they don't want to support something. So I don't think Microsoft did do that.
No, I don't think so. I'd hope not. It was also confirmed that Remnant from the Ashes and The Witcher 3 are going to be added to Game Pass on top of numerous Final Fantasy games, the Yakuza series, and Kingdom Hearts. So a lot of value for all these Xbox services. And that kind of wraps up, outside of like a Wasteland trailer and a couple of other little things, that's pretty much everything that we saw at Microsoft's X019. So overall, I was pleased. I was interested in most of what they showed.
Yeah, and I think the big change for me was looking at Wasteland's graphic update. Brian Fargo, he had stated in the right before that there was a graphical update, and then finally seeing it, that if anybody goes and looks at the old version of what it looked like versus now, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
it's just there was a lot of stuff. It was pretty crazy. I was really happy, especially because it's not even an E3 yet.
Yeah, I agree.
So
that's the thing. E3 I always view as kind of the staple. I guess that's sort of evened out because now I feel like with these random Nintendo Directs, and random and just anything
to play,
anything can sort of happen whenever. You don't know when an announcement's suddenly going to happen on a Thursday or a Wednesday. So for me, I guess the playing field sort of evened out. But yeah, I was very pleased. I don't think it's frequent that we usually have to wait till the Game Awards.
Right.
So with that, we'll wrap up some of our Xbox-related questions for the show, and then we'll continue on to our next topic. Let's start off with Mike Fury, who asks us, what games did we like from X019? What were our favorites?
I would say West of Dead is definitely high on my list. Probably... So mine were probably the side ones. Ori was shown for a second, and I just can't wait for Ori. And then the guitar game was easily my game of the show, just because I'd never seen it. The Wayward Escape, or whatever it was called, where it was a platforming game with a guitar player, and that was just phenomenal. That caught my eye. I don't even know what it is. I just saw him on a skateboard playing a guitar and a fucking huge boss behind him. I was like, Jesus Christ, that looks awesome. So those were probably mine, other than and the announcements, just the number of announcements that they had.
I'd say Bleeding Edge, Grounded. Those were the two that really got my attention the most. I agree, the announcements were the most exciting. You can't really put your finger on a game, but just like the support for Game Pass, the support for xCloud, to see them really taking the streaming seriously and fighting against competitors and sort of trying to take control of that space. I think they did a really good job. So those would be my favorites. Last question comes from Aunt Jemima for this section. What in the donkey fuck should Microsoft name the next Xbox? Imagine you're on the team responsible for doing it.
I would leave it to Scarlet.
Yeah, I would too. I think there's a separation there. I think anything like Xbox 2, I think that kind of keeps it in line with Xbox One, which is a good console, but didn't start off strong. It has a bit of a stigma attached to it. I think you have to get a little bit of brand separation there. I think, a separate name. I would agree.
I mean, Nintendo doesn't go by numbers.
Yeah.
So why should anybody? They've switched and well, they did do the. Well, no, wait a minute. Was it called Wii 2? What the fuck was the middle one with the tablet called? Wii U. Yeah. So, I mean, they've switched GameCube.
I remember watching a video that said, like, that actually hurt Nintendo being, like, the Wii U, because people were like, I already have the Wii.
Oh, so, right. Yeah, like, what kind of upgrade is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of
like,
thing?
It was more
gotcha.
like a component rather than an actual new console. So.
Yeah, no, I would say leave it as whatever code name. It's not going to matter anymore.
Yeah, I agree. Let's get into an Anthem overhaul. A new information report, rather, came in from Jason Schreier over at Kotaku, and it's just about what a lot of us were expecting. So let's get to reading. Recent silence and a couple of high-profile departures from BioWare have led fans and pundits to speculate that the studio has abandoned its most recent game, Anthem. But the opposite is true. For the last few months, BioWare and parent company EA have been planning an overhaul of the online shooter. According to 3 people familiar with those plans, some call it Anthem 2.0 or Anthem Next. Many of the details are still in flux, so that's pretty much saying what's in this article is subject to change, and there's no clear timeline for the Anthem Next project just yet. In fact, from what I've heard, the developers at BioWare haven't even decided how it'll be distributed. They're still figuring out whether updates should be released all at once or over an extended period of time. Anthem could be overhauled through a series of updates a la No Man's Sky. It could get a game-changing expansion like Destiny's critically acclaimed Taken King. Most of Anthem's biggest systems, its mission structure, its loot, its world, will change drastically, but the developers have not yet figured out considering what that will look like. They're even considering releasing Anthem Next as a brand new game, although those who work on the project said that could take a lot of forms, and it's unlikely they'll charge full price to Anthem players. The one thing that's for sure is that BioWare has not abandoned Anthem despite recent breathless declarations that the game is dead. Right now, dozens, if not hundreds, of developers at both BioWare's offices in Austin, Texas, and Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, are quietly working on plans to overhaul the game. We spent a few months just tearing it down and figuring out what needs to change fundamentally, said one person on the project, and we've been rebuilding for a few months since. A representative for EA declined to comment on this story. Let's see here, and that's pretty much it. And then it's just a recap of what happened to Anthem. A second person on the project told me yesterday they were still doing lots of testing things out and experimentation, but nothing's concrete. With so much in the air, it's impossible to know what will and won't change. But it's safe to say that Anthem won't suddenly transform into a brand new franchise. We still expect to see freelancer mercenaries, Shaper artifacts, Javelin exosuits, and all of the other core ideas that the game has established. BioWare's plan is to zoom out and overhaul the gameplay systems that most players have agreed don't work. How and when that plan will come to fruition remains to be seen. So,
works for me.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
I heard somebody say, it might have been yours, it might have been mine, it might have been both over time, but somebody was like, oh, they should let it die, and I'm all, you know what's weird? If you let it die, you'll always be remembered as a company that let it die. Like, that you just will. And if you fix it, I think there's a little bit better of a chance of, like, nobody's going to love it day one, like, or pretend they loved it day one, but if it turns out to be good, most people return. They return to Rainbow Six Siege and other titles that haven't started well. Sea of Thieves. So, it depends. It sounds like it's all free. Or it might be free, or it might be a next game, they said. Or he said in that article.
They said they're going to try to, like, wrap it in. Like, they might separately release it, but they said that'll take them. They're kind of veering away from that. And I imagine they wouldn't. I think that would probably hurt them more to try to resell what the game was supposed to be. I personally don't want them to do it in updates, like, incrementally. I would rather them...
One big one, right?
Yeah, one big one. Obviously, continue expanding afterwards, but drop most of your big ideas into this game when it's ready. Obviously, while maybe, Jason Schreier claims, a lot of people are just saying it's abandoned, it's dead. The players can say that. There's hardly anyone playing the game.
Yeah.
And numbers prove that. It's good BioWare hasn't given up on it, and that they're going back to the drawing board. And since that's the case, since they seem to be stopping all plans for Anthem, and since the players aren't really engaged, my suggestion is take your time with it. There is no rush. I think no matter what window you announce this in, it will capture attention because people will be like, wait, what? Anthem 2.0 or Anthem Next or Anthem Redone or whatever. I think that's pretty big.
Probably smart to do it all in one big one and just, you sign in and it's like update needed and then it's 2.0 and whatever gameplay choices they made to switch. Because there was a lot of Anthem that doesn't need to switch too.
Mm-hmm.
Like graphically it was fine. There was issues with gameplay and all that stuff. So like it doesn't make a lot of sense to do incrementally to me, because I think incremental you lose the PR push too. And the push of fans, because they're like, oh, I don't like this update, I like this one, I don't like. But if you just do it all, it's more seen as like here's a new world, or here's the old world.
Yeah, I remember when I played it, the game felt good to play. Like it controlled well. I enjoyed how I could use the abilities of the various javelins. I did not go into the full game, don't get me wrong, but I wonder, since the issues are so deeply baked into the product. And are they going to do an engine switch? Because one of the most common issues that they tacked onto this game was, our engine took forever to do everything. So what do you do now? They said they stripped it all down, so it seems like they're still working with Frostbite. And
yeah, I don't see them doing a different. I don't see them doing a different engine. That'd be crazy talk. But the problem is some of the engine stuff does seem to be the issue too. The loading thing that we saw. Which is like you'd get out of a single player mission and load you back, like weird shit would go on. Maybe they've just figured out a way around it. I mean, it is possible that they were just like, oh, we figured a way around a couple of these things. Because like you said, the shooting, the 3 minutes I was playing a mission were fun. It was just, and I joke, but it was pretty short. You'd be playing it, you'd be like, oh, this is pretty cool or whatever. And then it'd be like, you're done. And it like a lot of times would pop you back. It's just odd stuff.
Yeah, I think like there has to be an interconnection between the hub and the world. I think there needs to be a better story from what I've heard. I won't speak on that too much. And it's like, do they redo that? Or in this new expansion, do they just add a whole new story on top of it? And then rework some of the missions in the original game to be a little more balanced, enjoyable, fun. Like, I'm very curious for sure. And you and I, as huge fans of the older BioWare, certainly wouldn't mind seeing them get their act together a little bit, even if it's not on an RPG. Awesome. So yeah, I mean, even though this game doesn't really speak to me, I'm hopeful for BioWare. Would love to see them get back on track. More exciting news. This is a crazy ending of the week between all the information we have, and you'd think that just a Microsoft show would be enough, but now we have another substantial Mafia 4 leak. Some of you may recall that we talked about Mafia trademarks appearing a couple episodes ago, and now we have a pretty substantial leak. This information comes from Segment Next. They are citing a Reddit leaker by the name of The Truth Teller 1985 that claims his sources are ex-developers for the project as well as one journalist. While this is a credible lead, this is nothing more than one man's information, so take everything we state below with a grain of salt, and let's get right into it. The development journey. Mafia 4 has started its initial prototyping as soon as DLC for the third game was over, according to the leak. Back then, Hangar 13 dropped the project to work on a new IP, which unfortunately didn't work out. A small team was working on Mafia 4 in Brighton, coming up with an ambitious prototype that managed to catch the team's attention, and since then, most of the studio is working on it. This doesn't fall far behind from what we've since known only 2 months ago. Sorry, it wasn't a couple episodes ago. That's like 8 episodes ago. Hangar 13 filed trademarks for Mafia. Now for the story. And don't worry, there's not spoilers. It's just general premise. Not even names, in fact. The leak suggests that Mafia 4 will be set in Las Vegas in the 70s, and it'll be a straight sequel to Mafia 3. You're back in the Italian mob, this time as a new character with no words of any old faces making a return, which I personally think is good for the series. Motion capture has started 8 to 9 months ago, so the studio is going the extra mile for needed realism. Last but not least, Hangar 13 won't follow the flashback storytelling that we were used to, and instead it will adapt a present-day plot. So that was kind of what Mafia 3 did. Made it a little unique, but definitely didn't help the game, I guess. Although the ending was awesome because of it. Mafia 4 map. In the terms of setting, the Mafia 4 map will be bigger, and it is spanning across a whole decade. In that time, you'll be able to use an empire building system that will let you buy out, build, and transform buildings into casinos and more. When Karak and I were going over the show notes, I mean, I geeked at this one. That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
very cool.
Very cool.
Mafia 4 gameplay. According to the leak, the Mafia engine has been redone and remastered to be ready for the fourth game, so that most of the issues that were present in Mafia 3 won't be the case with this one. That means the missions won't follow the same dull procedure as before. The project is ambitious, and that means better and in-depth gameplay, which is excellent. There was the loop for Mafia 3 was fun for 10 hours, and then you realized it was that same loop, and you're like, fuck. Mafia 4 release date. Don't expect Mafia 4 to release for this generation of consoles. So this is PS4, Xbox One. If the leak is to be trusted, then it will release in 2021. Given the back and forth with its development team, it wouldn't surprise us if the project is still very early in its development. Mafia 2 Remaster. Closing up the leak, we find out that there might be a Mafia 2 Remaster in the works. One small insider, Hangar 13, Set in Check, is working on a remaster for Mafia 2 using the Mafia 4 engine. If that's true, then its release won't take as much as the next games, and we might get to play it sometime next year. Summing up, we have Mafia 4 releasing in 2021 with a new protagonist and a much more ambitious gameplay system. Mafia 2 is getting a remaster sometime before that, and both are using a new version of the existing engine, suitable for large-scale projects that can take the franchise to a whole new level. We remind you one more time that this is only a leak. Even though most of the information seems credible, we should wait and see what Hangar 13 has to announce when the time comes. Okay. I just read it all, so yeah, you go crazy, man.
Well, I mean, the only thing I wonder about is some of the stuff that was being written was also like jumps in logic. Like, so it'll be more realism because we're working longer. That sounds like a fan writing it versus like they started 8 months ago. That's usually what somebody would say. They started the stuff 8 months ago. Somebody wouldn't just add a bunch of, that'll cause the facial textures to be more realistic or whatever. Those two aren't really connected.
I get that.
So some of it seems a little weird. However, it does match up with other stuff we've heard. Some of it does. And it wouldn't surprise me if somebody did just leak something like that, because Mafia 3 had a bunch of stuff leaked early too. Also, the one thing I told you prior to the podcast, it was weird. Normally, a leaker who's trying to make a name for themselves will leak something. If they're leaking something fake and it's not real, it'll be for something that's more closer, because it like gathers them the attention. So when that says 2021, that actually did cause me to be like, oh, that's interesting.
Plenty of time to forget.
Yeah, and usually it'll be like 20. It would be like coming out in summer or fall, because that gets the person who's faking the leak a little bit more like clout. I don't know if any of it's true, but it all sounds incredibly plausible. Nothing about what that, which that all sounded cool too. Like a direct sequel would be cool, but in, a place like that and this time setting, all of that seems like it would be really enjoyable. And that's a dangerous time in Vegas.
Yeah.
So like, with a lot of gangs and a lot of organized crime. So
yeah, it would make sense.
If it happens.
It would make sense, and I would be very interested to see it, because I had a feeling rather that they'd come back with Mafia. I didn't think, if this leak is to be trusted, that they'd reinvest so heavily. Mafia 3 did, I think, sell pretty well. I just think Hangar 13, I think because of development issues, it sort of wasn't enough. It was like a Bioshock Infinite. Bioshock Infinite sold a ton, but
not enough to recoup.
Yeah, exactly. And so I honestly thought, first things first, we'd see Hangar 13 close down before anything. So hopefully now we also hear that the smaller game that they were working on, which was a new IP, got canceled. And so I feel like Mafia 4 is their last shot, and that's probably why they're doing a Mafia 2 remaster to sort of recoup some assets before they launch this big game. give them a bit of a cushion. So it all adds up, and especially when you see trademarks just a couple of months ago now surfacing, and then you see this leak afterwards, sequence of events makes sense.
You are right about something, though. I think we only heard one time about layoffs there, or did we hear any times about Hangar 13? Have we had? Is there ever been
layoffs? Yeah,
there were layoffs, but it never closed.
No,
it just there were. So to me, that does. I mean, obviously they're working on something. Their name hasn't showed up on any other games as a secondary help developer, have they? Has Hangar 13 showed up on any other games by them as a second?
Yes. I want to say
you want to say okay.
I want to say yes. I'll double check while you keep going.
Because that would be it would be if they only showed up as like a small helper group, that's one thing. If they showed up as a big one, then they maybe this all turns out to be nothing. But it does. I mean, they haven't quit that company. It's still there. So they're obviously working on something. I think Hangar 13 did sell well, if I remember. It sold actually pretty well. It just critically didn't do the best.
They expanded in May of 2018. So
yeah, so that's like a lot of that stuff seems to make sense. Also, they had DLC that I was told was actually pretty good.
I did hear that. I did hear that.
So, I do know that they haven't been working on Mafia 3 since then. So I do have one YouTuber who comes on our podcast sometimes, and he's a huge Mafia 3. Like, that was one of his games he streamed all the time. And it all that doesn't really seem that far-fetched. It's like it sort of lines up. On the other hand, that might just be a leaker knowing what lines up and trying to, guess ahead of time, drum up some excitement.
Some more interesting information. I can't actually find anything. I'll keep looking, but it said in November 2016, a few weeks after Mafia 3 launched, 2K stated that about the game sales that it was the fastest selling game in publisher's history.
That's what it was.
Yeah, that was a success to Hangar 13, and the studio's developers were excited to take the narrative and technical lessons they learned and apply them to a new game. Whatever that may be, after Mafia 3, they felt like they could do way better. A year and a half later, however, Hangar 13 is in a far different place. The studio was this past year was a turbulent time for the studio. This was in 2018, as it floundered while trying to figure out what its next game would be. Many people who helped make Mafia 3 are now gone, including the game's art director, technical director, senior producers, design director, many design leads, and a number of other key staff. Some voluntarily left, others were let go or asked to move. Some went to other game companies, others moved to the top secret studio next door to work on an unannounced new BioShock game. I think that's where the Hangar 13 thing I heard was. Some of them had moved over to BioShock.
I'm pretty sure we talked about that in a podcast, because that sounds like an old announcement, right, that you're reading?
Yes, this is a Jason Schreier article from April 13th, 2018.
I'm pretty sure you and I talked about that during a podcast.
Yes.
We absolutely did. Thing. Okay.
Hangar 13 went through 2 different rounds of layoffs over the past year, including one in mid-2017 that went unreported. During the second layoff in February 2018, the company moved some of its staff out of its office in Novato to locations in the Czech Republic and Brighton, England, offering them new jobs at lower salaries, according to 2 sources. So yeah, they did go through a bit of a speed bump through all of that. Yeah, I can't find anything on them working on other games. Let me type in Hangar 13 code developer. See if anything comes up for that. Maybe Wikipedia. Games developed.
I think when you look at it, though, while you're looking, I do think that what they've talked about, the 70s, just all that excites me. I like the idea of not being a current piece or anything like that. It's not, which wouldn't even be as fun.
It does say that they helped with the Ultra HD update for the Borderlands collection. So Borderlands 2 and pre-sequel got this update when Borderlands 3 was revealed at PAX.
Right.
So yeah.
And that wouldn't even be that many people on the staff.
No, definitely not. So it seems like that
plausible.
Story about the small game not working out would be plausible.
Yeah.
All right. So Google Stadia, you said you had a lot to say about that in particular. You said you had some of the new information that came out over this past week.
Yeah, so they did so we know pretty much what was happening, but then they did an AMA, which is the Ask Me Anything on Reddit.
Just keep going. I have to step away for 1 sec.
So for people who weren't aware, the AMA sort of turned into a disaster. Basically, they all kinds of crazy shit happened. Like they announced there's no UI whatsoever. You need a phone to actually buy games. So if you buy this Founders Edition of Google Stadia and you plug it in, you won't actually have a UI. You'll need a phone to use their app to buy the games. So, which to me, well, to most people seems completely backwards. It's very crazy that they're actually doing that. And then in the past, we've been informed that even people who bought the Founders Day edition, they won't all get it. They're behind. And what's interesting about that is the hardware that's in the Google Chrome that they're sending to people is actually not different. It's just got like from what I understand, it's got like a software adjustment that allows it to be used as this, which also indicates that the Google Chromes people have right now, the Chromecasts, will not actually do Stadia for a while. I think they said 2020 at some point. So you have to buy a Founders Edition, which you don't know if you'll for sure get. They're behind on making them, but at the same time, there's really not anything they are making, which is causing a lot of people to think it's the controller that they were having issues with manufacture of some kind. So there was some issues there, and then the AMA came up, and there was just a bunch of really dirty info. And what I mean by that is info that doesn't really match up with past stuff they've said, including like if it'll work on a browser, if it'll have that UI, how you'll be able to buy the games, what you'll be able to get. And it ended up turning sort of not necessarily negative, but when you do an AMA, whenever you get these companies that do AMAs, you get an employee that does an AMA, whatever, you have to watch out. You have to be pretty honest because you're doing it live. You're not doing it on a video and you're uploading it, but it's almost like a Twitch stream. People have the ability to interject right away, which is sort of what was occurring. And especially when you look at the number of titles that they're offering, you look at the free titles they're offering, which is Destiny 2, and you look at just some of the other stuff, they haven't really been incredibly open even on the hardware. They've been a little open, but a lot of it's just sort of magic talk. I was just telling them that in the AMA, they announced there's no UI whatsoever for this for Google. When you buy it, you have to use a cell phone to buy a game. There's no UI whatsoever. Okay. And also that they've stated that even if you buy the Founders Edition, they haven't made enough for people. So a lot of people won't even get it. And additionally, when you buy the Founders Edition, you're getting a Chromecast and the controller. Mm-hmm. And the Chromecast you may have at your home is technically the identical Chromecast, but there's a software adjustment on the new ones. So that means people with Chromecasts won't be able to actually do Stadia at all. You have to buy the Founders Edition at first. And they said 2020. I can't. Somebody probably knows the date. But I was just telling these guys the AMA sucks because it's live. So you're answering questions in Reddit. This is why whenever anybody does an AMA, it usually turns disastrous if they don't tell the truth, which is what happened. They were going back on some of the stuff they said, and people were like, "Well, you just said this. Now you're saying this."
Yeah.
Yeah, and exactly, like a video, where you can say, "Oh, I didn't have the right data," or whatever.
Thinking,
and it just, and I was telling them that like their free game is Destiny. It just, there's no buddy system. They removed that. They didn't remove it. They said you would be able to get it a couple months ago, day and date. Now they've changed that, so you won't even have the buddy system that they said you were going to get. They removed a couple features. It just sounds, and this is next week.
It is.
And I ordered a Founders Edition, and I haven't got it. So I ordered a Founders Edition like the moment that thing became available.
Bro. I can name a million things I would spend that money on.
For review.
I get it.
For review.
I get it, yeah.
But no, I would too. Bro, if I wasn't reviewing, I wouldn't get a Stadia.
See, the thing is I get why you in particular would review it. For me and my channel, I'm like, I just look at it, I'm like, it's so obvious the thing is going to bomb. I don't need to spend money to tell people that.
It seems like there's I think the interesting thing is the technology, which is the most is it going to work?
Yeah. And I think what's going to happen is it's going to be kind of like maybe an Ouya or something where you look at it, you learn, and we move on. I think
also oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say I think the only reason it has attention is because it's Google helming it. If it was anyone else, be like whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, and last week a developer came up on Gamasutra. They requested to be anonymous, but they came up and they said every developer they've talked to, even if they're making games, is very worried Google will just cancel it. And that if you go to Gamasutra, you can read that article where they're just like, yeah, it's another platform, and yeah, you get money from it because it's not a subscription. So when you buy a game, it'll be a Stadia version of the game. Additionally, they did something which I've never seen before. They took one of the really unspectacular games of this year and pretended like it was awesome so they could sell a feature, which was Grid. Grid was not a great racer. And they're like, oh, well, our version of Grid can do something no other version can do. You can have 40 cars. And you're just like, any PC could do that. Any system could do it. You just have to turn down the res. Like, what they sold as being special is absolutely not true.
Sad.
And they also sold it on a racer. It would be like me going and getting a B title and being like, I added something
motocross
to it
versus like ATV and just being like, hey,
yeah, exactly.
Check this out.
We have this, and you're just like, well, that's a weird title to like. Does that if they did something for Assassin's Creed, that's like, not co-op, but I don't know what they could do. But if they were like one of the big titles, then that would be impressive. They have talked about some awesome ideas in the future. I just don't know if we're ready for it. That's then, yeah. Our bandwidth is just not. It's going to be an interesting situation to see, like, technically how it works.
I'm just dying to see how it sells. I hope there's actual numbers for how it sells. I will be so curious.
Yeah, because I don't see a lot of people I know getting it, and I know a lot of first-time buyers where they buy this best stuff day one. Yeah. And I think I'm the only one getting it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem to be hot.
Career purpose for it,
and I have a career purpose for it. Yeah.
So, thank you, Karak, for taking the reins on most of that conversation. Yep. Let's move over to the October NPD data, where we have all the game sales, all those game sales, how much money all these pubs are making. Certainly a lot.
Off your sweaty, middle class working back, people.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so we're gonna go in the order of 10 to 1. It starts off with Ring Fit Adventure at number 10. Great game. Been playing that quite a bit. I use it.
Right, the health game.
Yeah, I use it. I intermingle it with some other workouts, and it's great. I love it a lot. So I'm happy to see it succeeding, and it would be really cool. I was thinking they could do DLC where they add new workouts. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So I do hope to see that. Borderlands 3 comes in at number 9. Number 8 is FIFA 20. Number 7 is WWE 2K20. Number 6 is Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Number 5, NBA 2K20. Number 4 is Madden NFL 20. Number 3 is Luigi's Mansion 3, which came out on October 31st, so the last day of the month, and it pushed its way right into number 3, which is awesome. Number 2 is The Outer Worlds, and number 1 is naturally Call of Duty Modern Warfare. So what do you think about that? Interesting top 3 for sure. Good month.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised at Borderlands' low number.
You think?
I am, for some reason. I guess Borderlands 3 came and went, man. I don't know. Maybe people in the chat will disagree, and maybe they're playing it, but I don't see it even ever anybody playing it.
I think a lot more people shared the experience I had, that it was just very, very, very buggy, and the story was not good. And the gameplay is great, which is why I'm a little surprised that I haven't heard more. They just teased the first DLC. It's something with Handsome Jack. You could see like a little leaderboard. So that'll be interesting. I'm definitely keeping my eye on it. But yeah, man, I just, the end game was enticing for a decent amount of time, then something else came out and I just moved on. And like, I was ready for a while. Like, dude, that was one of a few games I've played like every entry before the final entry came out, so to speak. Like, I played Borderlands Pre-Sequel 1, Game of the Year Edition. I played 2, and Borderlands 3 came out. Like, I was good to go. I was hyped for this game. And it just let me down. So I can't say I'm too shocked. I think people should buy it if they are into that type of game. I personally wouldn't have recommended it unless it's on a sale. But it also, because you used the words came and went, and that's sort of how I expected it to go, because there was such like a hungry fan base. And at the same time, though, Destiny went free to play, right? Around this same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I feel like maybe that could have, do I want to pay $60 or can I get a pretty well-established experience already with free Destiny? Could be a possible thing.
I just feel like for some reason Borderlands 2 was in the top for longer. I could be wrong. But then you look at like Outer Worlds. That doesn't surprise me because like as we got closer to the release, you could tell it was a little like Greedfall, where it was just like
yeah,
and
something with RPGs, like, man.
Yeah, and when that many people say a game is good, it's pretty rare, unless it's a small title, for that game not to see that bump in sales. And there were so many high reviews, even though it's not at a high number, it's higher than most people assume of Obsidian game, because Obsidian has one issue in the past, which was bugs, and every review that I read, my own, was like surprisingly no bugs, or surprisingly few, you know what I mean?
Very
and
polished,
I think
yeah.
that people who wanted an Obsidian game but were impacted in the past by bugs looked at that and went, finally. And it just seems like people were buying it. I know people who bought 2 versions. Like they bought the console version.
I'll be buying the Switch version, so.
Yeah, in the Switch version.
Yeah.
I'm not really surprised by that one. It just like it's a good game. It's a very high quality game.
Absolutely. And speaking of the Outer Worlds, we do have a patron question about that from Kylan521, a brand new patron. Welcome aboard, Kylan.
Welcome aboard.
He says, I know that you're a big fan of the Switch, Matty, and you're also loving the Outer Worlds, as am I. With that said, are you planning on getting the Outer Worlds on the Nintendo Switch, which I did just answer, actually? I'm not holding my breath for Fallout 3 Game of the Year Edition / Fallout New Vegas Ultimate Edition port to come to my Switch any longer. I don't think Bethesda will ever do, unfortunately, or do it, unfortunately. And the thought of having, sorry, he has a couple typos here. Kylan's going to learn real fast what happens when you have typos on our Patreon question section.
What are you doing?
Unbelievable. I don't think Bethesda will do it, unfortunately, anytime soon. And the thought of having a portable experience of the Outer Worlds just blows my mind. I'm definitely getting a copy for Switch. Keep up the fantastic work, you and Karak. Well, thank you. We love you. We appreciate you. And yes, I do plan on getting it for the Switch just to, A, support Obsidian, B, support the Switch, but C, I am in the same ballpark of I think it's just awesome to have a game like that on the go. I'll be totally truthful, and a lot of people will be displeased with it, but in my second run, I don't remember. I'm playing The Witcher 3 again on the Switch, and it just did not hold my attention. The Witcher 3 is a very definitive game, but because it was so definitive, I think it almost got hurt by all the games that mimicked it for years afterwards. A lot of elements in The Witcher 3 were taken and used in separate games, like Horizon Zero Dawn is one I think of right away, where you're constantly tracking things. A lot of games used the tracking feature that was introduced in The Witcher 3 to kind of push its questing along and keep you engaged in the world. But it just, a lot of elements for The Witcher felt very familiar. And so for me personally, it just didn't grab me, not for a bad reason. Like, this game's not as good. It's still excellent. It's just, I don't know. It didn't pull me in as much as the first time did. I was enjoying going around kind of being like a douchey Geralt and like asking everyone for money, just being true to the Witcher name. But I also think it did come at a time where I was ready to kind of hop in and out because the Outer Worlds was about to come out. I was gearing up for covering a couple of other games at the time. So for me, The Witcher 3 was just an RPG I wanted to play, test, talk about a little bit. So there is that factor. But ultimately, the Outer Worlds is the type of a style of RPG that speaks more to me. So the idea of having that on the Switch, I will guarantee I'll play it again. The Outer Worlds is just a special game in my opinion. I really, really like it. And so yeah, that I think I'm just more partial to that type of RPG. As I stated in my review, it's just a type of RPG I really like.
I think he's right on saying don't expect Fallout. I think that there's a CPU overhead that they probably have tried to get past, and they just can't on those titles.
I feel like it would have already happened.
Yeah. It's so much that they've been crunching away at it. Also, I would agree on Witcher. I enjoy Vampire more on Switch than Witcher. And I think Outer Worlds fits Switch better than Fallout. Outer Worlds, for some reason, I love the idea of, because it is a more tight game. And I just like the idea of it on the
Combat's
Switch.
Easier too, because of the first-person shooting on Switch is a little iffy. So having simpler combat, easier combat, it is one of the game's flaws. Yeah, that too. It's one of the game's flaws because it is so easy. But I think it may benefit the Switch in particular.
Yeah. I think it's awesome. It's coming. What is that going to be a full price? Do we know?
I imagine
is that
so.
Going to be a?
Yeah. I imagine. So the thing that we don't know, which I thought was going to happen at X019 and it didn't, is we were not confirmed any type of DLC for the Outer World yet. I mean, Obsidian's talked about it in previous interviews and whatnot that they have ideas for DLC. But we thought an announcement of some kind would come, like, hey, here's a roadmap or something along those lines. And it did not. So I think most people's eyes are set on the Game Awards. But more importantly is we don't know if, let's say they are charging $60 for the Switch version, if that will squeeze in some DLC before then. Because presumably, based off an earnings call with Take-Two, it's coming before March 2020. Or
DLC?
Like March 31st, 2020, I should say. No, the Switch version. So I imagine they're going to want to have some DLC squeezed in there beforehand for added value and more enticement to purchase it. The idea of getting more for your dollar.
Do you think maybe it'll be something like not what we think, but maybe like a small satellite, quest and maybe like some weapons? Or do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of ideas. I pitched in a video. One of them was just more science weapons. I think that's kind of a shoo-in.
Mm-hmm.
I think they'll just do a science weapon package. I said that because the Outer Worlds is such a tight game, it's hard to kind of imagine it, but there are some areas like, for example, Scylla. Scylla could use some quests. That could use some filling out. And so I'd be really interested to see them add more quests into the world. Like Byzantium had some really great quests, but maybe add a couple there. Because what happens is, and I love how the game flows because it doesn't overwhelm you, but Edgewater, great introduction. Don't change that. Monarch, I think great as is. Lots of quests, lots of content there. It actually almost overwhelms you at that point in the game. And then it sort of settles down. And then the ending part, sort of you kind of coast through everything. Everything's like, a couple of quests here and there for certain aspects of the game. I think what would also help, though, is if they brought you to a new planet and added quests there. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the companion quests follow the same track. Like, we're going to start in Edgewater, we're going to go to Monarch, and then we're going to go to this planet. It follows the same path in the main story. And it would be nice to truly feel like there's a divergence and go off to a separate place. That's no companion involvement. It's just new location, new quest to explore. I think that would be kind of interesting. It's just my 2 cents, though.
I would like them to reuse or make more places like the asteroid. What's the location called?
Scylla.
The asteroid is okay. I like that place, and I think that the otherworldliness of that location would pay off with some quests in it for sure. You could also do something crazy like have an NPC come on the ship who gives you jobs, and you go to different. The reason why I brought up the space station was because I personally believe creating assets for a planet's hard, but a space station maybe not so much. And so it'd be, or
Good
imagine
point.
like maybe a headhunter who lives with you who's like, go to Byzantium and kill this guy. Go here, almost like the what were they called in Skyrim? What are the assassins?
Oh, Dark Brotherhood.
Yeah, almost like that or something, like a new mercenary contract.
That'd be
or
cool.
It's like, hey, you're high enough level, I want to send you on some stuff. It just all depends. I don't think it'll be a full thing though. I think a lot of people might expect a full a place as big as like some of their new planets. I don't know if it'll be that big. It'd be awesome though. It'd be awesome. I'm surprised we didn't hear anything. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and the thing is I thought it would be a good time to announce it because it is still fresh in people's heads.
Yeah.
And so I think with how quickly games sort of, you move on to the next thing, granted it's at the part of the year where probably the next thing people are moving on to is Jedi Fallen Order, and that might be it. Kingdoms Under Fire 2 does look interesting. I'm certainly trying to play that. I had a request for a code coming to my inbox, so I did submit for that because I thought that was in my wheelhouse. But point being is that they are in a particular part of the year where there's very little things for your attention to go off of the Outer Worlds.
Right.
So maybe they're trying to lean on that a little bit. Obviously, we don't want them to rush an announcement, but I feel like that I guess that time window for them to get something out by would be that Switch release. I doubt they'd be like, hey, here's the Switch version, and we got more DLC afterwards. I mean, it could work. It could happen. There's no reason why it shouldn't. It's just, for me, I feel that's kind of the end of the Outer Worlds timeline. Like, okay, we have a second soft launch here that kind of reinvigorates the fan base. Maybe synchronize it with some DLC that's like a part of a free update. And just kind of say, okay, we're done supporting the game now. Because by then, I'm sure it'll be patched of anything that still needs patching. So all that's left is additional content. All
Yeah,
right.
it's I think overall, maybe Game Awards show,
Yeah,
maybe.
because it was announced there last year. I think it would make sense to show DLC or a roadmap or something like that at that point. I think at that point it'll be well overdue, to be honest. December. Actually, I shouldn't say that. December, early December, and the game's launching, or launched rather, in October 25th. So, yeah, I might be a little hasty. I have to remember, too, I beat this game. Not that I didn't when I always ask for it, but as I'm talking now, I forgot. I did beat this game far before people even had their hands on it. So,
Right.
you know, I've been ready for more for a little bit longer than others. I'm sure a lot of people are just wrapping up the game. All right, so let's get into the rest of our patron questions. You people make this show possible. I didn't really pitch it at the beginning of the show because we wanted to make sure we got the corrections in there. But if you do want to support the show, we do have a Discord where you can submit your questions in there. I always tag you guys right before we record the show. Not right before, about a couple hours before we record the show. Let you know the news topics, and then you can submit topical questions or just questions of your own. We'll start off with Natural Calamity. He always gets his first question in every time. Which game you personally looked at as a underdog or soon to be flop, but highly passed your expectations and blew the competition? You know, I'm going to be honest. Siege. Oh, that's a good one. I'm going to be honest, though. Because of the way PR was being handled, I didn't think it would be a flop, but I viewed it as an underdog going in and sort of like, okay, there will be a certain amount of people that like it, but it turned out a lot of people liked it, as evident by the NPD data. But the Outer Worlds, I really didn't think that many people would be feeling that same desire for, I guess, a Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 3 level experience as I was. And I was very happy to see a lot of people were just as thrilled. I was really, really happy with that. But yeah, personally,
Yeah, because it's. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I remember reading articles of Obsidian saying like it's not a AAA game. Dim your expectations. We want to make sure we're managing expectations. Like control your hype. We're not doing an open world game. Like everything they did was to like control, lower, diminish.
Mm-hmm.
And for me personally, it didn't really diminish me because I like a lot of what they were saying to diminish. They're like, it's not open world. It's more like KOTOR 2. I'm like, well, fuck me. Okay. You know,
Yeah,
but
right.
I didn't think that would resonate with so many people like it did. So that's where I sit at it.
For me, I would agree with that, but I would say, strangely enough, seeing Star Wars and the reviews, I'm pretty blown away by how high the reviews are.
I thought it'd be a little lower. I agree.
I thought it'd be a little lower, and because I'm done with it, and I thought it was good, but there were some definite issues that I thought, especially looking at other games where they've scored, I was a little questioning on like, why did this game score from the same reviewer at the same place? There was some context that seemed missing. So that one actually surprised me because, dude, when I started seeing the reviews, the first ones, of course, that are good pop up first, and there was like 9s and 9.5s out of 10, and I was like, damn. Especially with Death Stranding getting a 9 or 9.5. You know how sometimes you'll get companies that almost like subconsciously you feel like, well, we rated this last game really good. Let's
balance. Let's really get this one
right. And I guess I was sort of expecting that, and it didn't happen. It's done insanely well. So
I understand the sort of catching yourself like during the fall or whenever review season gets a little rapid, and I find myself recommending multiple games in a row. You do have that brief moment of like, oh, do people think I'm just going to recommend everything? But then I just take a step back and I'm like, hey, is there something wrong with thinking that many games in a row are good? I think that's a great thing. But at the same time, I do understand why a company would take a step back and be like, oh, we're suggesting a lot of games here.
It's actually happened, though, Matty.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, with big companies, I've actually felt it's happened, too.
Like, yeah, the timing.
There's been a couple times where I've seen a game and seen a review that seemed weird, and the next one seemed like it was like almost an average. We rated this one a 7 or a 9. This one's probably a 7, or this one's probably an 8, but we'll give it a 7 so that we sort of seem even. And of course, that's just me looking from the outside. People do it to me. It's not true.
It's also separate reviewers, so there would have to be like a dialogue there that would probably be very strange.
I'm specifically talking about same reviewers because I agree with you.
I
absolutely see what you're saying. You can't be like, well, Joe Bob gave it this and Maddie gave it this. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
That one. And Outer Worlds, dude, it's PR. I'm sorry. Oh, Control's another one with weird PR.
God.
Dude, what a disaster behind this. Man, people don't realize it. It was a fucking night. Both of those games were nightmares behind the scenes. Like, they did seem like something was being hidden.
Yeah.
For sure.
I remember a article came out for the Outer Worlds. I forgot about this one, about how, like, tired that Obsidian developers were, and that, like, in the middle of one interview, like, one of the guys just, like, straight up walked out. Like, he just, like, was like, I can't do anymore.
I think it was at too.
PAX East, I want to say. Like, he just walked out. He was like, I can't do this. And I was
was he tired of answering the same questions, or was he just
I don't know what, I think he was, apparently what she wrote was, she was like, I think she said, like, I wasn't offended, like, I totally understand. She was just like, I think these guys are very tired, and they're working very hard, and they're feeling a lot of the pressure. And it was more so a piece about that, about, like, the humanization of game development, which I think is really important. But I remember that too, and being like, oh boy, you know, they're fucking grinding away. Yeah. Yodeling Llama asks us, with all of the negative press Bethesda Game Studios and ZeniMax have been getting concerning Fallout 76, do you think Starfield is being rushed right now in order to get a new product into the hands of consumers? Do you think once Starfield comes out that Fallout 76 support will be terminated?
No and no.
Yeah, I was going to say, I really, for the first part at least, I fucking hope not. I really hope they're not like, get it out, get out, get out, get out. Like, oh God, please don't do that.
Yeah, can you believe if they did that? Especially because it's them, they don't need to do it. There's nothing that indicates that they financially need to do that.
Yeah, that's big. That's the big issue with Fallout First, is that Bethesda could have easily ate a sunk cost and said, look, we're releasing nothing in this holiday period. Wolfenstein Youngblood did not do that well. We're just going to eat it, and then next year we'll launch Wastelanders. We'll launch Fallout First 2 alongside each other to sort of counter it. And then we'll do Starfield later on. You know, I just think that would have been the more brainy play. And I think now that they're kind of stuck in a corner, they have no choice but to try to earn consumer love back. I'm not using the right word, but you know what I'm trying to say. And so, personally, I think, yeah, once Starfield gets out, I don't think 76 is going to be terminated. The idea of 76 is this, I've told people this time and time again, it's the same thing as Elder Scrolls Online. There wasn't going to be a new Elder Scrolls game for a very long time. So they did ESO in preparation for an Elder Scrolls franchise going dormant, essentially, outside of that game. You know, you still have Legends, you still had Special Edition, but Elder Scrolls Online was the continuous, like, year in, year out, every E3, you are going to see a new huge expansion announcement, and it is going to be a very popular part of Tamriel. And it is a great game. It worked out well. The same cannot be said right now, of course, for 76, which is why I don't think it'll be terminated, because I think Wastelanders, despite all Bethesda did, Wastelanders still does stand a chance to help bring a lot of players into the fold. But what do you think?
No, I agree. I don't think it doesn't feel to me like there's any plan of rushing Starfield, and it certainly doesn't feel like there's any plan of getting rid of Fallout 76. Because it is already made, so you can still shuttle off a good number of people and still be working heavily on a game because it's created. So they're adding to it, which does not require a huge number of people compared to when you're creating something from the ground up. So to me, they could still plug a bunch of stuff in, add, you know, gameplay. I think they are looking for a hook, though, for 76, and I don't know if Wastelanders is it. But it feels like they are, just like Tamriel Unlimited, Tamriel, when they mixed them all.
Yeah, Tamriel Unlimited was the one where you're talking about, where they, like, relaunched Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah. It was Anthem 2.0. You know, like
it really was, and it came within a year.
Yeah, and it came within a year, and it changed a lot of people. Even though I liked the original game, it did change a bunch of stuff, fix a bunch of stuff, and it feels like they're still trying to figure out how to do that with 76. I don't necessarily think they can't either. Yeah, they can't. I just don't know if Wastelanders is that. It doesn't seem as big enough, I guess would be the term. I don't know. It doesn't seem...
Yeah, like... I mean, I think a lot of us underestimate how big Wastelanders can be. From what I've heard, it is like a whole map overhaul, essentially. Like, it's not just like, here's this pocket of Wastelanders. What I heard was like, it's coding the whole map. Like, they're adding things everywhere, which is why I think the delay was good when I heard that. But at the same time, we'll see if that remains to be true when it launches.
Yeah, if that turns out to be true, then that's awesome. Like that could turn it around because people would feel like, oh, now it is a Fallout game. Because it does not feel, I don't know what it feels like, and I only did an hour and I was already like, I don't like it. It doesn't feel like I don't need to experience more.
I could tell.
I don't know.
You want to hear something funny? Is I could tell when I walked out of the vault, I was like, something's different here. Because when you walk out, there wasn't this set vista to like oversee the world. It was not like this artistic display. And when you walked down a stair set and the first thing you find is like a fucking beat up shack, it just seemed like the world design was off. And that like didn't ring true for a BGS game for me. It's just something felt weird.
I mean, look back at Oblivion. Remember when you came out of the prison? And you see the world in front of you, and Skyrim, all of those places. In Skyrim, when you come out of the first cave, and it's like you're on the top and looking down, and it's this huge area. They usually nail that. And they did
Fallout 3, like even Skyrim, even though you open to a path, you could like it was almost like you were seeing the light.
It's on the edge of a mountain.
Yeah, exactly. But it was also like as if you were peering through like a crack of light in a tunnel, and you were just walking through. And as you hit that bend, you see like the river, and you see like all this insane scenery. Man, they nail the opening every time. And 76 was like you just knew something was off. Vault 101 guy, has a question. Any thoughts on what might be announced at the Game Awards in December? Also, I watch another podcast called the Pretty Good Gaming Podcast, and they gave a shout out to Karak for his amazing no bullshit reviews. Just wanted to let you know we the people are thankful. That's good.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. Oh no, I do know. I'm sorry, I do know. I admittedly, that was not to be a jerk. I just don't get a chance
I just
to
laughed
listen
because you were very
and
honest.
there's like 10 pretty good or kind of good, and I was thinking it was the kind of funny. So I get those
kind of funny. What's good?
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there is too. If you go look, like it's hard to parse that. No, that's awesome. What was his question?
Any thoughts on what might be announced at the Game Awards in December?
Phil Spencer did an interview after the Xbox event and said that there is a very high chance of seeing 2 Scarlet games. So what that means, I don't know. But he hedged. He said they'll be there. Then he hedged and said possibly. I'm assuming that just means if they're ready. I would say Watch Dogs Legions, possibly to keep people up on Watch Dogs. What I think that we're definitely going to get some announcements we've never seen. Sony might nail it.
I think Warner Brothers will step in and finally
reveal. God.
Yeah. Whether it's the new Batman game or that Harry Potter game that leaked, it's got to be one of those two. I'm sorry, I know I always reroute to those same guesses, but it's like it's fucking due. Like,
what if it's both?
Yeah, oh god, that'd be insane. Oof. Jeff Keighley would get a handshake from me.
Oh, dude, yeah, high five to Jeff if it was like Harry Potter and you're like, oh, finally, and then it's like Batman, Arkham, whatever, Legacy, whatever. I'd just be like, this is the shit. You know, if it turns out good. That's true, yeah. Harry Potter, we need this. I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, I don't even know if I'm interested. I just want to see whatever the fuck it is officially.
Yeah. That's good. Who's been quiet? Who's been like Corey Balrog or
yeah, you got it right the first time, Balrog.
Did I get it right?
Yeah. That's
also the name of the creature in Lord of the Rings, right? His Twitter, he said something like engage or disengage, and he hasn't posted since.
Yeah.
So I was like, does that? And I talked to him recently on Twitter to try to get him to do an interview, and he said something along the lines of, well, I don't want to say what, but he indicated that they might go quiet for a while because they're, once they get back into developing, they don't do a lot of interviews.
Makes sense.
So I was putting all those together thinking, does that mean close? Because when he said disengage, does that mean like, oh, we're getting ready for something? Or does that mean more along the lines of going quiet for your next one? I don't know.
I got one. I'll say maybe Sunset Overdrive on PS4. Just like
they own the IP, right?
Yeah, Insomniac does. So I think maybe like Sony may not have a huge presence, but that might be like a cool Sony announcement. That's like kind of it's not like they're making a whole new game. They're just switching consoles, and I think that's big enough for something like that. That could be cool.
Yeah, because they, other than their VR game, which got amazing reviews last week, it's just been Spider-Man, right? It was Spider-Man. It was the DLC. It was this VR game, and
They did Medieval, Death Stranding. That was a big launch for them.
Wait, Insomniac worked on...
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about Sony as a whole. Sorry.
I apologize. No, I apologize.
No,
I was
they
just
haven't.
talking about
They haven't done much since Spider-Man.
Okay, gotcha.
I didn't know about their VR game though.
Yeah, it got, dude. It really got good reviews as a full, like a almost full game.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I could see them. I mean, and that's a port, so might not require the entire team. That'd be a cool little thing to show.
Just a guess. Aunt Jemima asked us 2 questions. Number 1, do you think that heavy gaming negatively affects the mental health of the average person? And number 2, also, do you think that typical video game is legitimately addictive due to the dopamine rush and etc., aside from microtransactions? I ask because while I love video games, I often wonder if there is a casual correlation between video games and other forms of heavy media consumption and depression. See, I'll start off just by saying, like, I feel like it depends how you enter gaming. Like, do you think heavy gaming negatively affects the mental health of the average person? And I view it in 2 lights. Number 1 is I'm a big believer that not you are what you consume, but if you watch like a lot of dark shit, like a lot of dark movies, and like you're watching like cop shows, and you're watching like, or you're playing like dark games, and you're watching dark anime, and you're reading a dark book, like you're going to feel darker, right? Like that's why I always say I have like palate cleanser games. Like I don't breeze through games unless it's for a review. Where I usually pace myself a little bit. Like I'll play a couple hours, then I'll go on Smite maybe and kind of like wipe the palate clean. So the next time I play, it feels fresh. So I feel like it depends how you enter that space. And when it comes to heavy gameplay, it's like, why are you playing, right? If it becomes every time your life is tough or you get sad, that you do hop to video games, and those video games don't make you, I guess, feel better, and you're just kind of like whittling away and not addressing the problem head on. I wouldn't say that they're connected, but there could be a correlation to why, if you're choosing not to address an issue but instead play a game, a connection to depression. I don't think, I don't get that. I very rarely get that, I put this in quotes because Aunt Jemima said it, that dopamine rush from games. I don't know, maybe because I play them so much. It takes a lot, for me, it's like a dynamic moment in multiplayer, or it's a wow, I've never seen that before, or it's the excitement of like first unpackaging it, or like a big story revelation. And as someone who plays a lot, like my standards are a little, I'm not saying that others aren't, but like my standards have been raised a lot, so it takes a lot to get that reaction out of me personally.
Yeah, and I'm not a firm believer in a lot of the bullshit that we talk about anyway with dopamine, especially when people don't realize that the amount of dopamine you get on seeing a dog and petting a dog is quite high. So a lot of people pretend dopamine's the one and only thing, especially somebody trying to prove something wrong to you. They'll always be like, oh, the dopamine. They don't understand how the human body works. It's only for their study that they want to prove to you. So if you look at the way a human body works, you might get dopamine. I get dopamine from Friday podcasts. That's a good example. If I did Friday podcasts all the time, would that suddenly be a bad addiction? So the thing about a bad addiction also is, what's heavy even mean? Heavy, what does it mean? And what is healthy for some people and not healthy for others? For example, some people are introverts. So to them, I might say, I need to get out. To an introvert, that is completely the wrong fucking thing you want to say. Because that person, socially, dynamically, everything exists in a different sphere than I do. So they don't need to get out. Maybe they need to do something else or what have you. So no. I mean, when it comes to games, man, I think, dude, it's like everything. If it goes too far and you have, like if you're sitting for too long, you and I've talked about that.
Oh, yeah.
Like sitting for too long can actually kill you. Like, that's pretty much been scientifically proven, that if you sit for too long, everything goes to shit in your body. So if you're playing games and sitting too long, I would say that maybe you're affecting your health in that way. But I don't really necessarily believe a normal, like, that everybody can just be an even keel and you can say everybody reacts the same. You react differently than I do. You play, different amounts of games, and I would agree with you that I don't get that way from a game. I get it from a moment in a game. So like God of War, when I got it, I wasn't like, oh my God, like some gamers. Instead, it was when I was playing, something cool happened.
Right.
And I don't 100% see that as even a way to get like an addiction. It's a very odd way of, I think everybody's got us into so many studies, discussions of studies, and pretending it's one chemical and it's one reaction. I mean, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a study that does show dopamine levels from normal day-to-day activities, and it's pretty crazy how much it goes up from, like, no lie, opening your back door into a backyard you enjoy is like the same dopamine as petting a dog, which is like the same as a major race victory. Like, it's crazy. It's just that dopamine does not also contain an adrenal rush. So they'll separate it to try to prove whatever negative thing they're trying to prove.
Makes sense.
I would just say it's
I think the dopamine rush he's talking about is the one with the adrenal in it, where you're like, you feel like the buzz and you're like, oh, like I'm wired up now.
Do you get that anymore? It doesn't sound, I don't really.
No, I mean, like there are definitely moments, right? Like where I wouldn't even call it an adrenal rush. It's more like you feel that like, oh, yeah, I think it's a perfect word for it. Yeah, but I definitely don't get that anymore. Usually the announcement of something, like if they did a KOTOR 3 or they like took the Dragon Ball card game that I play all the time, and they're like, we're doing a digital version, like, yeah, dopamine rush. Like, I'm like, oh shit, let's go. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like part of, and we have maybe a different look on things, because part of me and you, we do a lot of discussions, and for us to actually engage in the discussion, we sort of need to go from up here to like, you know, medium, and just like have the excitement, show that we're excited, but be able to talk and explain why we're excited.
Maybe mute it down a little bit.
Yeah, and so I think just our bodies are wired that way. So for me, even with a game, I've seen friends go like, whoa, this big Call of Duty explosion set piece, and I'm just kind of sitting there like, okay. Like, you know, so I think it's also different tastes as well.
Well, like I was teasing your last guest.
Yeah.
I legitimately tweeted I didn't know who she was before she came on, and a couple weeks prior I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, nobody this has to be fake. Yeah. Whether it was or not, or it's just people let it get to him. I think also once after a couple years, he didn't say how old he was, but I do think after a couple years, when you see other things in life, as long as you have good life experiences, you'll realize that, like,
it's a game.
It's a game. Yeah, I don't know. I was trying not to say that because it sounds so derogatory towards somebody being excited about something. But there's a lot of shit in life. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think it's wrong to say, though, because certainly that's how I even it out. And until you said it right there, I was always like, man, am I like not, I want to say not into games. I love games to death. I know that. But I'm saying, like, am I viewing it from the wrong angle? But yeah, it's just like, you know, this moment in a game is exciting. But hey, that like thing I experienced in real life, I went hiking or whatever. Oh wow, wasn't that great? You know, so yeah, I get what you're saying. Benjam. Oh, sorry, no, go on.
I was gonna say maybe it's also because, you know, have you ever heard that? Well, I'm sure you have, but the saying where they say the journey is like more interesting or more exciting than the destination.
Yes.
And maybe it's like when I think of a trip with my friends, I have that excitement and then a very low ebb, but still very enjoyable excitement when I'm there.
Yeah.
And we're having fun.
Yeah.
Games, I get that excitement and I look forward to it, and then I purposely am like, okay, whatever. And then I get to it and I have that low ebb and then bumps when we do cool things.
And that actually, it's funny you mentioned that. That does carry into my real life, because like when my girlfriend and I were going to Universal Studios, she was like every day like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Oh my God, I'm so excited. And for me, like you, like kind of with the games, like I hit an off switch, because I'm like, I don't want to be excited or have expectations until I'm there and I'm in it.
Yeah, and just experience it.
Yeah, and she was like, "Are you like not excited for our trip or something like that?" And I'm like, "I am," but I had to explain to her. She was like, "That's kind of weird." And when I was in Florida, I was like, I was jazzed. I was enjoying myself a lot. So yeah, I'm the same way with some situations in real life. I don't like to build expectations prior to a big thing happening. I'd rather just go into it with nothing and just let it hit me for better or for worse.
I find my excitement much higher when I do that, when I'm during it.
Yeah,
I
think it's the best way to experience it.
Event more if I don't hump it at the start, because have you ever got fatigue also? Like
you get there and you're exhausted.
Dude, yeah, I had a big camping trip one time, and I'm like, we're gonna go fuck camping? And we went there, and I'm like in the tent, you know, fucking almost comatose because it was so much prior to going.
Yep.
And
I've been there. Yep. 100%, man. I thought, man, we're more alike than we think.
Yeah, for sure.
Ben Jam asks us, what's something that you messed up big time and thought you would get into loads of trouble, but everyone was cool about it in the end? Oh, I got one.
Go for it.
All right, I was young, so it's partially why. Used to play a lot of RuneScape, one of my favorite games growing up. And I was not familiar with the concept of grinding a video game and, you know, getting my skills up. And I thought that what the best way to do would be to pay for people to go onto my account and do training for me.
Right.
So I find Dad's credit card. I go on a website and I spend like $500 on like a new account with like full stats.
You're that guy.
Yeah.
You're that guy.
Full stats and new items and all this shit. And I remember my dad coming to my room, you know, just seeing a $500 charge on his account. He's like, what the fuck is this? He's like, not to me, but he was like, you know, whoever did this, you know, they're in big trouble. They're going to jail. And like, he didn't know it was me at the time. So he walks away and I start crying in my room. I'm like, oh, I'm so fucked. Like, you know, my dad's going to send me to jail. Because once again, I'm in like 4th, 5th grade at this point. So I don't know. And yeah, when I told him the truth, I was like, it was me. You know, he was like, all right, look, like, I get what you were trying to do. But you got to ask permission to use a credit card. You can't just take it. You can't just spend money. It's not yours. You know, like, it turned into a lesson. But I definitely thought I was going to, like, lose my RuneScape privileges. I thought I was going to, like, not be able to play games. I wouldn't get allowance. I thought, like, you know, my parents would hate me. So, yeah. Definitely.
He handled it really well.
Absolutely. This type of guy
I mean,
is.
that's a kudo to him, like, that he handled it that well. Because a lot of parents, I'm not saying they beat you, but, you know, you'd be usually
like screamed at.
Yeah, the response is over the top because it's a big deal and they want to prove a point. Mine is homicidal for sure, but it is something I'll remember for the rest of my life. It was like 4th or 5th grade, just like, and yes, this is going to sound homicidal, but I was 4th and 5th graders don't know like results of things, but I love Christmas, and I was bringing toys from Christmas to school because you had like show and tell. And I had a thing. I don't know if you saw these because they're pretty old, but you had these 2 joysticks and it's an arm, and you can like pick things up. It was sort of like a Radio Shack toy, and you could like do science. And that thing, my parents probably spent $80-$90, and a guy named Craig. So Craig, if you're out there, fuck you. But Craig went around. And he went to everybody's toys and broke them.
A piece of shit. I hope Craig's kicking fucking cans on the side of the street now.
I think I scared Craig straight because the next day I lived out in the woods, didn't have a lot to do, so we used to make ninja stars out of razor blades, which is you take two X-Acto knives, you put them back to back, you super glue them, and then you duct tape them, and they fly really well in the razor blades, so they stick an anything. And I took them to school.
Oh God, okay.
And he came out of a doorway, and I was very good at throwing these things, and he came out a doorway, and I fucking hucked it at him. Now, it's been years. I can't tell you if I meant to hit him or not. I didn't, but it's stuck in the wall. And he saw it. He pissed his pants. He went and told my mom's best friend, who was our principal.
Right.
So I'm in school, and I know I'm just waiting for the, would Jeremy show up at the fucking principal? And it does come
waiting
over.
For the phone call.
Yeah, and I go in, and I lied. I was in 4th grade. Kids lie. And I was like, nah, I just meant to scare him, blah, blah, blah. But I thought I was dead. Like, I thought my dad, I felt bad because at the time I was in martial arts, and I thought my sensei'd be like, you're out. I thought my parents would be like, you're not coming home. Like, I didn't know, because that was the first big, stupid thing I had done. And it was if you look at it now, even now, I look back at it, I'm like, kids do some crazy shit. Like, and I had
you could have really hurt him.
I could have really hurt him, and
bad.
I was very vengeful when I was a kid. Like, I was like, don't wrong me. I'll fucking, and so I thought I was in deep shit. I like legit thought they weren't going to take me home. I thought my parents were going to be like, and I remember my mom was disappointed, obviously, and I got suspended. But yeah, that was one of those ones where like you don't know how much trouble you're in, and you think like it's the end of the world. And I don't remember crying even when I was a kid, but I remember like moping in the bus stop because she made me ride the bus home, and not knowing if she would like the house. Like this sounds weird, but I didn't know if the house would be there. I know that sounds really weird, but I was
know
only
what you're
in fourth
trying.
grade.
Yeah, I get what you're saying though.
So I like thought, would they like move the like? I was having these nightmares of like getting off the bus and
like
there's
your
just
whole
no
life
house.
would just end as it was.
Yeah, there's just no house and no parents. Like they were so disappointed, but they handled it really. I mean, way better than I would as a parent. I would have handled that.
Yeah.
The kid would be in deep
you're going to jail, kid.
Dude, yeah, the house is moving, motherfucker.
Interesting story. Mike Fury has a couple more questions for
here
us.
we go.
Working on a video for 100 best games of the decade through 2019, from 2010 to 2019. Name your top 5, taking into consideration impact, longevity, sales, and legacy. Man,
100 games.
yeah,
That's going to be
100 best. Yeah, that's going to be a huge video. Yeah. Top
In a
5.
decade?
Top 5 of the last decade.
Okay, let's remove one caveat there, sales, because man, they
Yeah,
didn't track sales.
I was
a
going to
decade ago.
anyway. I will say, let's see, Skyrim was in that period, so Skyrim for sure. Nier Automata. Persona 5. This doesn't go in any order, by the way. Sorry, Mike. I just
shit.
I'm
Yeah,
just
for
trying
sure.
to pick
Sorry.
five games, you know, and the amount I play like probably 40, 50, 60 a year. So I got a pretty good list now. Skyrim, Persona 5, Nier Automata, BioShock Infinite. That's one I love. And I keep thinking of it. I'm going to have to go with it. I know it's going to be a predominantly Japanese list, but Danganronpa, man, that is a really, really good series. It's one of my favorite IP. It is tremendous. I've replayed it a lot. It's so good. So I'd say Danganronpa.
The only ones I could come up with were Skyrim for sure, and then I'll show my bro colors, but Halo and Gears. Gears 1, Gears 2. And Halo for sure. Halo, whichever one came in the 10 years. Halo 3 is actually my favorite, so Halo 3 I'm sure came.
I forgot. New Vegas was in that window. I think New Vegas was 2010.
Fallout 3 was in that window, right?
That was 2008. New Vegas was 2010.
Fallout 3 is 2008.
Yeah, and that's why everyone's so shocked we haven't gotten a re-release. They could have figured it out in that time period. Yeah, I'm gonna take out Danganronpa. I'll do New Vegas.
New Vegas.
Yeah, I'll throw New Vegas in there.
I can only come up with really 3 because I don't. I mean, those are the ones I still return to Halo and I still return to Forza. And
yeah,
I still
these are all
Gears.
games I return.
Skyrim. Yeah.
Skyrim is the one game that has no choice and consequence, and I still go back to a ton. And I think it's just that sense of adventure that's captured unlike any other game. It's insane.
Yes, Skyrim, even the normal version, even though I have the VR version or other systems, I'll still occasionally just be like, "Oh, it's time for Skyrim," and you just go back in. Yeah. I think I only have 3. I don't really. I mean, Oxenfree. If we're talking about, if we ignore the sales, Oxenfree, for me at least, would absolutely be in that list.
Got 2 others.
Yeah. No, man, so Skyrim, Halo, Gears, Oxenfree.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I don't know. Because prior to doing reviews, I played a lot of games, but I would stick with a game. So Skyrim would eat up the time I might be playing one of these other games, and I'm not.
Skyrim. My first save file on the 360 was like 300 hours with all DLC accounted for and everything.
It was ridiculous how that just took over everything. And since I can't pick Oblivion or Morrowind, and remember I'm older, so some of my favorite games are actually
back then
are older.
Yeah, I get that. All right.
Fucking 2008, man.
I know, right?
That's insanity.
Best multiplayer game of the year: Borderlands 3 versus COD Modern Warfare. Who wins? I'm not picking either of those because, quite frankly, I'm not as jazzed about either of them. I thought my Borderlands 3 experience was pretty plagued by bugs, and a lot of them were multiplayer related. COD Modern Warfare is just kind of like the same thing I've experienced before.
Yeah, against those two, I didn't really like my time on Borderlands, so I guess by default.
Yeah, probably. I'd probably default to Modern Warfare realistically.
But not like because it is amazing.
Yes. Last Mike Fury question. Is EA now in our good graces after the raving reviews Star Wars is receiving? And he didn't add this in, but we also have to think of Need for Speed Heat, which I know you were a little iffy on, but it is receiving decent reviews.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a decent game.
And there's no microtransactions in either game.
True. But fuck
surprising. No. Yeah, I was gonna say it's a long road. Long road.
Dude, not only that, I don't consider a company that released only one good game in my good graces either.
Yeah.
They could release a shit game. Like wait long enough and every hero becomes a villain kind of thing.
This is true. This is true.
You know what I mean? Like yeah, no, I don't think so. But EA has always also supported, if you ignore all the other stuff, people forget EA supports the fuck out of indies. Mm-hmm. And if you talk to indie devs, most of them who've worked with EA say Microsoft and EA are actually on their high list for how they're treated. And I know it's easy to diss on EA because of all the other stuff, but there's a lot of Unravel was EA sponsored. You know, some of those... so like I dislike them for sure for a lot of the stuff they've done, but I don't really hold them in a weird. I think the only one I've ever even heard you hold in a weird whatever is Activision. Like I hear you talk about Activision more than EA.
Yeah, I think Activision sucks more than EA, especially after the whole Activision Blizzard thing. They definitely suck more than EA as far as I'm concerned.
Right. So I think to me the real one would be like how does EA get back into people's good graces versus is EA in or out? They have their good releases and their bad ones. Yeah. Did you do Heat? Are you a Need for Speed fan?
I enjoyed it when I was younger during its heyday. It has not pulled me back in. I played not Payback, the one before that came out, I think 2014.
Hot Pursuit, Carbon, Hot Pursuit, Payback. Oh, well, there was one just called Need for Speed as
I think that was it. Okay. And I played that one a decent amount. It was all right. I'm not a huge racing fan.
Right.
As you know, very few.
Because I think Forza is the only one you've clicked with, right?
Yeah.
Forza Horizon.
Yeah, I'm not, against playing them. It's just I don't view them as, I want to play a racer. But I might give it a try again because I think it's almost, therapeutic just to kind of, rip around a track sometimes.
Dude,
instead of just fighting things or doing multiplayer matchmaking. I think so I'm more open to it.
Burnout Paradise, that was probably the one you played.
I did play that, but that was
the popular one.
I did play that, but no, I'm thinking of
it wasn't that one.
It was I think it was 2014. It was on the PS4. It was a cross-gen game, I think.
Gotcha.
Last question comes from Q Davis 215. Since Pokemon got released today, I'll ask this, and this is as of the day we're recording on Friday, November 15th. You wake up as a Pokemon trainer. Who would be in your starting 6 Pokemon team?
I don't know 6 names of Pokemon.
That's funny. Okay, I'll do it then.
Go for it.
My team, I will say this now, Q Davis, and I do apologize that my team will not be super original. I am one of those plebs, if you will, that really likes the first generation and the second generation. But after that, my interest, it fades. So, Scyther is my favorite Pokemon ever. Love him. And by the way, I'm not getting strategic either. I'm just carrying these around for swag. Just to be like, look what I fucking have. Look at my pet. So, Scyther, Hitmonchan, Squirtle. Those 3 are shoo-ins right away.
Okay, I know Squirtle.
Yeah. Everyone should know Squirtle. Squirtle's pretty recognizable.
Right. That's pretty much it.
This one's going to be a hot take. Alolan Sandslash. So, Alolan is the island that Sun and Moon take place on. I actually have a plushie of him sitting right here. So this is what he looks like, Karak. And anyone who's watching for the video. So there's Sandslash, or Sandshrew, sorry. Not Sandslash. Sandshrew. Sandshrew really cute, but I like that version of Sandshrew more. So, Alolan Sandshrew. And then these last 2 sort of are evading me as of this point in time. So I think I'm gonna ball out with these 4 because I think any other 2 would be forced. It would have came to me already. Yeah.
Do you know the names of all 400?
No.
Or like 400?
I mean,
okay.
like if I see them, I'll recognize them and I can name them. But when it comes to like the black and white generation, and I'm sure my memory's hazy on like the Ruby Sapphire, even though I really like those games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like once black and white hit, that's when I really dropped off X and Y. Like, yeah, I don't think I had a substantial interest from that point on. And then Sun and Moon came out. I really liked that. Mind you, all of these I played except black and white too. But the first black and white, even as a kid, I played, and a lot of people really like black and white too. So I know I'm in the minority there, but those just did not grab me. And I'm open to giving them a try again, but I do want to play Sword and Shield eventually. I am interested in that.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to play it, actually.
Yeah. Those are all our questions, my good friend.
Excellent.
And that wraps up episode 228 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast. We thank all of you for your fantastic questions. We hope you enjoyed this week's show. If you want to let us know you did, you can fire away on Twitter with the hashtag.
So I wrote 2 down.
Oh,
but I don't.
you were
I think
prepared.
there might be 2. Yeah, well, they came up. I screamed, "You're that guy," when you were talking about spending $500 on your dad's credit card, and then for some reason I wrote "Little Matty" because I also repeated those. I don't know why your story about the credit card resonated.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do You're That Guy. So
You're that guy.
Yeah, you listened this far, you want to let us know, you got any extra feedback for us, let us know on Twitter at Jeremy Penter and at G27Status. As always, we will give you some love back if you choose to show us some. So thank you so much for being a part of our show. We hope you enjoyed once more, and we'll catch you next week with episode 229. Peace out.
Peace out.